Attention, everyone. This is an emergency broadcast.
Whoa, what's up and hello and welcome to another installment or a brand new installment of a Daikaiju discussion for the Kaiju Cast. That's right, the Kaiju Cast, the world's oldest podcast, and I haven't been doing it in a long time, so I don't even remember the spiel I used to say at the beginning of the episodes. But hey, it's me, Kyle, and I'm not alone here. I've got a whole bunch of Kaiju Cast co-hosts that we have brought back together to talk about the epic monster movie that just came out last month, the end of last month, Godzilla vs. Kong. We have 6 co-hosts joining us, and we're going to go ahead and just grab a couple of people and say hello to my very first co-host of the Kaiju Cast, Martin Vavra. What's up, dude?
Hey, I am just very happy to be here.
Well, it's good to have you here. How have you been? What's been going on in your world these days?
Things have been good. I just keep trudging on making my films and paying the bills with making films and just really enjoying films. And I want to just say really quick, this isn't a spoiler, I hope. I saw this film in a theater and I was so happy.
Really? Cool. Well, I can't wait to hear more about that. We'll go ahead and we'll just go chronologically speaking and bring the next chronological host in, and that would be Mr. Jeff Dean. Come on, finish that whiskey.
Hey.
What's up, buddy? El Jefe
Good.
is in the house.
It's good to see you guys. It's been a long time. Literally. I mean, really, it's been a long time.
It has been like a long time since we've seen each other in person.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys realize it, but there was a pandemic. Not was, is.
You don't say.
Yeah. So that's why I've been kind of keeping a low profile lately, not leaving the house. And,
So you've just been hanging out at home?
hanging out, doing all sorts of weird projects, Can't really get into that. It's a family show. But
That's right. Then let's keep it family show-esque, since it is a Kaiju Cast product here. Now we do have the next chronological person would be Sane, but unfortunately Sane's devices aren't ready to go yet. So hopefully we'll be able to hang out with him a little bit and hear how he's been doing. But we'll just click the next guy over in time, and that would be Mr. Dave Helfrey.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that was something.
I think so. I mean, I'm sort of going off of a hazy memory of all this stuff too. What's up, dude?
Nothing.
Nothing.
No.
Nothing.
It's like, I know that Martin's been working because I've been seeing all of his posts on Instagram and stuff, and I have sequestered. I have rolled up in a ball, and I'm waiting for. I get my second jab this Friday. And then 2 weeks after that, 100%, everything changes. But until then, I'm staying in my cave.
Good on you, man. Good on you.
For the people.
For the people.
The good of the world, damn it. Wear your masks. God.
Wear your masks. Get vaccinated.
I want to strangle people. I see people in restaurants.
Let's not strangle people right now. Let's bring our next co-host on. So, and you don't want to strangle Sane.
No, but I want to see him.
Is Sane ready? Sane's ready, right? It looks like Sane's ready. Long. What's up, Sane Donahue?
Nope. Hey,
sir. Can you hear me?
I can. How's it going, dude?
Not too bad. Just trying to get this, problem with the electronics down, but everything's
good. Tech issues, live shows, anything can happen. No worries. No worries at all.
That problematic start.
It's all good. Well, we'll go ahead. If you're having any issues, just go ahead and mute yourself, and just make sure that if you do mute yourself, you remember that you muted yourself and unmute yourself later. We'll go ahead and bring on Adam Alexander from The Monster Project. How's it going, buddy?
It's going okay, man. Like everybody else, mostly hibernation. A year without music, a year without taverns and bars. And
it's been lame.
Music that can be in taverns and bars, and mostly without big blockbuster movies. So I'm excited about the one we're talking about today. It was one of the highlights of this last year.
Fantastic. Well, sounds like a perfect opportunity for me to bring in the final voice of this Daikaiju discussion, which will be Charles. Oh, they got you down there right there at the bottom on your own. That seems kind of rude.
Well, I'm a lone wolf. What can I say?
What happens if I do that?
Hey, there
It's
you go.
not too bad. Hey, and there's the Zoom you want, Dave.
There we go.
Sorry,
Hey,
Charlie.
look at that. You can't see my crappy basement anymore. That's awesome. Thanks, sir.
Hey, happy accidents, right?
You can see some of my nice stuff. Look at my GameCube.
Oh, very nice, very nice. So, welcome to the Daikaiju discussion, and we are broadcasting live on YouTube right now to the YouTube channel for the Kaiju Cast. And I just want to give a shout out to the 20 people we got watching live right now. You guys rule. Let's start off with saying what's up to Mike Keller, longtime Kaiju Cast discussioneer. David
Mike
Daco's
Keller.
in the house, my current co-host, number one of my current co-hosts. Justin Green, dude, long time no see. Good to see you. Greg Coggin, not long time no see. This guy's local to the Oregon area. What's up, buddy?
Oh, no kidding.
GFan 2299, hello to you. And lovely Shay Jump. I can't really do that in the small window here. Dude, Ern is watching live. You guys, longtime watchers, or sorry, listeners to the Kaiju Cast will remember Ern from way back in the day. And then, of course, Leslie P. Chambers saying the absolute best way to close out the weekend. The Kaiju Cast is back. Yes, yes, yes. Even for just a special episode. Oh, I should have gotten the old CBS special episode bumper to begin this whole thing. I learn as I go, right?
Awesome.
And then Scott Waldeck's watching as well. Thanks for watching, guys. Good to see you guys watching. We are here to talk about Godzilla versus Kong. Does anybody want to share any cool things before we get started in that? Do you guys want to share anything that you have, like, do you have anything to promote, anything that you'd like to get out there, using the platform, as it were, to share any projects you might be working on? All right, fine.
He's working on projects.
I guess, am I the only one? And Martin and I are the only ones working on projects?
I can just never talk about mine.
Yeah, I'm working. I just
Oh, that's right. Yeah. All right. Well, fine. I mean, if you're not watching Collect All Monsters every month, right about the middle of the month, we talk about kaiju collectibles, and it's the show that I've hosted with David and Leslie, both who are watching right now, in addition to John Ruffin and Christine Chapin, and it's been a ton of fun. And I've been doing it since the end of the Kaiju Cast. It's been a real different venue, and it actually really prepped me for doing this, which is super fun because I love this new format. I love this live video format. There's something very different about it, but something also very familiar. And I
would promote something if I can.
Yeah,
And I'll be really
absolutely,
quick.
dude.
So I'm actually working with a group that's called Feed the Mass, and it actually came about because of the whole pandemic. And currently, we're feeding about 1,000 people a day, give or take. And the whole project is based on donations from the Portland area. So people are donating food, and we have chefs who are not working in restaurants who are putting together these foods, these meals. We get them out. We're doing live cooking shows. Right now it's once a month. We're about to turn into like 10 shows a month. So you can watch them live. You can learn how to cook. We're going to have guest chefs. You can go to feedthemass.com and learn more about it. And I would love to have you all check it out and participate if you can.
Dude, that's
Nice,
awesome.
man. Dude, send me a link at the end of this, and I'll pop it into the show notes for this.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Thanks.
So anybody watching on the rebound can go just click that link in the show notes. Now, I believe that means it's time to get going here. You guys ready for the Daikaiju discussion to begin?
Heck yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go, baby.
Because once again, class, it is time for our Daikaiju discussion. Oh man, I've never seen the squares so small before. We got 7 people in here right now. That's awesome. And every month the Kaiju Cast does a yada yada yada. So we haven't done a Kaiju Cast Daikaiju discussion in quite a while, and so I actually had to go back and review some of the stuff that we have from our previous discussions. And the first thing I need to do is play the spoiler warning.
Now hear this. We have massive spoilers ahead. I repeat, massive spoilers. spoilers.
That's right. Massive spoilers because, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be talking about Godzilla vs. Kong, and there's no need for us to be holding back. It's already been in theaters and online for just about a month, and we have plenty of things to talk about, I'm sure, but let's get through some basics real quick. Did you guys know that Godzilla vs. Kong is the 36th Godzilla film in the franchise, the 12th King Kong film in the franchise, and the 4th of the MonsterVerse movies. Now, in the King Kong franchise, I did want to mention that 2 of those movies, King Kong Lives and Kong Skull Island, those 2 movies, because I'm a poster fiend, I wanted to make sure that everybody out there knows that Noriyoshi Orai, the artist who did a lot of the Heisei advanced artwork, did the poster art for that King Kong 2 poster there on the left-hand side. And then another Godzilla illustrator, Yuji Kaida, did the Kong Skull Island special Japanese release poster, which I love. It's up on my wall. I love it so much.
It's too bad that the King Kong Lives movie did not live up to that poster. Because that poster.
Be prepared for some hate, man. Because who knows? You never know who's going to be watching live, Jeff. All right. So in terms of more of those basics, like I said, this is the 4th movie in Legendary's MonsterVerse, which includes all 4 of these. Hitting the numbers since this movie has been out, we have currently broken the $400 million mark on Godzilla and Kong. At this is from today. Domestically, it's at the 86 million mark. Internationally, a full actually just let's go with worldwide, 406 million. And if you stack that up against the other movies in the MonsterVerse, it's still doing pretty well. The first movie was about 530 million. Kong Skull Island got 561 million. King of the Monsters only got 383 million in the theatrical run back in 2019, which I find surprising, but
which proves that Kong will always bring you more money.
You know what? That's a really good way to look at that, because I remember when we were talking about these movies back in the day, and I think someone in this group was like, I bet we're going to see way more people come out for Godzilla vs. Kong. Of course, this was before we knew a pandemic was going to grip the country.
Right. Yeah, because in real dollars instead of pandemic dollars, how much are we actually talking here?
Right. And, there's another thing to consider in terms of the pandemic dollars versus real dollars is like, I'm sorry to be a downer on this, but like Godzilla vs. Kong earning this much money, that's sort of a false inflation, because what is the competition right now? You know what I mean? Like, if this was a normal time, Godzilla vs. Kong would, number one, probably have some serious weekend or next weekend opening competition, right? Like other movie theaters or studios put out their movies to completely like battle the other films. It's just, what was the competition for Godzilla vs. Kong in the theaters in March of 2021?
Well, the competition was the pandemic.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
I was going to say, how many screens is it on right now?
That is actually, I believe, I can't tell you how many it's on right now, but I think it opened on like 3,000 screens. Or it played on 3,000 screens. There's some information. I think that might be worldwide, but I'm not exactly sure. There might be a slide here that has that information on it, but I can't remember how far I went into it.
Because for the U.S. on a major release like this, like 3,000 screens, just U.S. would be normal.
Yeah.
Oh, is that normal? Maybe it's not. I can't remember, because I know that people are saying this signaled like the return of the movie theaters.
Mm-hmm. How many people here actually saw it in the theater?
Good question.
So of like some serious fans that we all are, only 2 of us went to go see it in the theater.
Yeah.
That's telling.
I came this close to going to see it at the drive-in, but then it didn't.
That would be cool.
That would have been cool.
Yeah. It was, the drive-in, that would have been something I should have organized and been like, hey, who amongst us wants to go see this at the drive-in? And then we just all kind of like park our cars. Yeah. All right. Anyway, I also like to look at the estimated budgets for these, because I find it very interesting to, Hollywood is a numbers game, right? Martin, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So how much these movies make, it's dependent on how much they cost to make as well. So 160 million, 185 million, 170, 155 million. I'm actually surprised that Kong had less. Godzilla versus Kong had less than 170 million, which was Godzilla King of the Monsters. But I also am curious, right? So this movie got bumped around like crazy. You guys, did you notice that the release date for this film was all over the place?
Yeah.
They were like, first it's going to come out in 2020, and I don't even have those details. I think I found it boring, honestly, and it turned me off from following any news from the movie. I was just like, yes, just nail down the date and stick with it, please. But where was I going with that? This movie has been out for a month and it's made that much money. I'm sure it's going to make more money as time goes on. There's talk about like continuing the MonsterVerse, and
I was gonna say it's not gonna be the last one because of that.
How can you not come into the mushroom?
Well, let's talk about that. Let's real quick, just hands up, like who in this room who wants the MonsterVerse to continue?
Oh, for
I'm
sure.
all for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, all right. I'm the odd man out. Jeez, not really.
What are you serious?
I'm serious. I'm happy. I'm totally happy for this, for the MonsterVerse to end and for this to just be the end of it. But we'll talk about that later. I am interested. I definitely am interested in what they're going to do. I find that more interesting than if there's going to be like what the next movie would be about or anything. But yeah, so if there's going to be a next MonsterVerse, that will be very interesting to see how they go about that for a number of reasons. One is about the licensing. This is really the licensing is what dictates who is in these movies, right? So if the MonsterVerse continues, what's it going to look like? I actually legitimately would like to know. But let's get away from the numbers and let's talk about who made this. And let's get the boring one out of the way. Who produced this? Because look at this ridiculous number of people that are listed on the producers list for IMDb. But yes, who said that? Absolutely pretty typical these days. But keep in mind, still got Yoshimitsu Banno's name on there. Alex Garcia is actually the name that I see the most when it comes to interviews and spilling beans about the MonsterVerse in general. Anyway, not boring, who made this would be the director, Adam Wingard. You guys familiar with Adam Wingard before this movie came out?
Yes.
Adam Wingard has directed a large handful of movies, I would say. He's also had a hand in many shorts and other entries, like he did some pieces in VHS and VHS2. But here I've chosen to highlight You're Next, The Guest, Blair Witch, and Death Note, which are all fairly recent, but a pretty good smattering of his work. Adam Wingard is of course, the third Godzilla director. They got a different director for each one of these films. I don't know. I think Adam Wingard did a fine job. How do you guys feel about him before you saw the movie? Like, were you fans?
I haven't seen a single one of his movies.
I was a fan of, You're Next and The Guest. I thought was pretty good. Mm-hmm. I was, surprised that they picked somebody who made relatively kind of small budget movies to make this ginormous franchise movie. But, he did fine. So.
Well, I found their choices interesting, right? Gareth Edwards, who basically made one film, and then
but
you
that
had
makes some sense what he chosen. Like initially for the first Godzilla in 2014, he had already made something that was at least in the vein of what was going to come, follow the Godzilla franchise.
Yeah, they chose Gareth Edwards because of his ability to do something under in a certain budget, and he had success with monsters. And what's up?
And direct action. Gareth Edwards is really good at directing action, motion.
I think we're going to see a lot out of him in the future. I mean, I don't foresee him being another Ridley Scott or something in that, but I think he'll continue to make decent movies for the rest of his career.
Oh, for sure. And then, of course, your second director. We'll talk about. We won't talk about them in detail, but Jordan Vogt Roberts did Kong Skull Island, and same kind of situation. Hadn't done too much, was not a big name at all, but Legendary picked him to I think the same kind of thing. Bring in a big budget looking monster movie for, like, we were looking at those numbers, those budgets, right? For use this budget, have this budget to make this movie, and if you can do it, then we'll give you this movie. I feel like that's the sort of thing that they're doing with all these directors. The only one that's sort of off that is Doherty, right? Who did Krampus for Legendary, which I think did pretty well.
Krampus is fantastic.
I love Krampus. Krampus is a great movie. Even though I totally mixed it up when we talked about it on the podcast.
But he also did
Trick or Treat with that movie.
Trick or Treat's fantastic.
Trick or Treat is the best.
So good. Yes.
Oh yeah, he did that for Legendary too. Anyway, so Adam Wingard here, another horror director, sat in the chair, and in addition to Wingard, one of the other pillars of movie making that I like to hold up are the writers. And so, Dave, this is probably a good place for us to talk about what you want to talk about, but I can't remember if I have the slides for it. So let me go first, and then I might lead you to your Easter egg.
Sure.
Hey guys, this is Terry Rossio, who is a screenwriter, and he's been in the movie business for a cajillion years and has written a cajillion movies, including we'll just go with Shrek, Aladdin, the Pirates of the Caribbean movies in total, I believe. Lots and lots of stuff. This guy is a blockbuster writer. Terry Rossio, if you go back in time to 1994 using your TARDIS, to the same year that they were making Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla and Yamato Takeru in Japan, Terry Rossio and his writing partner, Ted Elliott, they penned the Godzilla movie for John DeBont. And in that, let's see here. I don't have it handy like at the ready for me to hold it up to the camera, but the script was unproduced and it's been sort of talked about a lot by fans, and then has actually been produced as an independent graphic novel, which Dave handed to me a little while ago, which was pretty rad.
Terry Rossio sent to me. So
that's awesome.
That's from Terry Rossio.
Okay, so I don't have the. Let's do that Easter egg later then, because I don't have the slides in motion right now.
Oh, okay. Well, let's like wait until like there's how many people do we got right now? So
watching
or more?
We got 26 people watching right now.
26. Okay, so like we'll just stick around for the Easter egg. Like let it like when we get like more people. We'll tell everybody. It'll be fun.
Tell your friends.
Nice tease.
Stick around. 30 people watching. We'll let you know.
Oh my God.
We'll release the Easter egg.
Excuse me. Mike is saying it's pronounced Jan de Bont. I've never met the man.
Yeah.
So that's I think it's awesome. Sorry, I think it's really cool that Terry Rossio had a hand in making this movie, because back in 1994 he was part of the beginning process of Hollywood trying to do something with Godzilla, and then of course he wasn't involved with any of the rest of the stuff, and then for him to be part of this and part of the writer's room for Godzilla vs. Kong, I think it's super rad. And the writer's room for Godzilla vs. Kong was a concept that got sort of talked about when the development for King of the Monsters was happening, if I recall correctly. And they were talking about the different writers that were in that room and how they were all going to work together. In the long run, though, those names, which I don't even think I need to name them because they don't seem to be attached to the Godzilla vs. Kong, the only ones that stuck around were Max Borenstein, who has had a hand in the entire Monsterverse, and of course Mike Doherty, director of the previous film, and Zach Shields, who was his writing partner from the previous film. That's who wrote the movie. We've already talked about who directed the movie, who produced the movie. Let's talk about who scored the movie. Junkie XL, a.k.a. Tom Holkenborg, which I might be mispronouncing, because that is, I believe, a Danish name. See, I like cover my mouth so I can edit it later if I need to. Anyway, I actually am completely unfamiliar with him. In fact, it's kind of starting from this point, you're going to see a lot of like, I don't know who these people are.
Did you not see Mad Max Fury Road?
Well, I did see Mad Max Fury Road, but I didn't know that he did the soundtrack for these movies. So I just had never heard of him until somebody posted an article saying like, "Oh my God, Junkie XL is doing the Godzilla vs Kong soundtrack."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "All right, we got a DJ doing the soundtrack." So he's done a whole bunch of stuff. He's actually got a bunch of soundtrack and composing credits, a lot more than I thought there would be for Mr. Junkie XL. How did you guys like the score?
It was fine. I preferred the previous composer. Bear.
I really really preferred King of the Monsters by Bear
I only
McCreary.
heard like 2 musical cues from the traditional Godzilla, overture.
I think there weren't actually any direct ones. I think anything was like implied. Yeah.
Yeah, they were definitely like undertones to the other orchestrations that were occurring.
Yeah, I think this one was relatively forgettable.
Yeah.
Actually, there's an interview online on Den of Geek with Mr. Junkie XL, wherein he specifically states that he wanted to avoid using the traditional themes for Godzilla and or King Kong to maybe hearken to the plotting nature of the music, but not to lift anything. And he said it wasn't in the spirit of, like, the current movie wasn't in the spirit of the original ones, which I find kind of fascinating because I don't see how that isn't the case.
Yeah.
His argument was that in Man of Steel, it would have been just as inappropriate to use John Williams' Superman theme. And I would agree in that case, but not having the traditional Ifukube themes in this one felt like a bit of a loss.
Yep.
I absolutely agree, Adam.
Or at least reach into the Warner Brothers archive and grab some of that stock music.
Yeah.
Is this the guy
That's a joke for your King Kong versus Godzilla viewers out there.
Creature of the Black Lagoon.
Sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
Is this the guy who's responsible for putting Bobby Vinton and the Hollies into the movie?
I would assume so.
Maybe.
Okay, well then-
I don't know if it's him or if it's the director, though.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
I don't know how this works.
I mean, thumbs down to the dad rock, in my opinion.
Whoever put that in there needs to be beaten. Yeah, like Fire Fist from Deadpool 2 is going to be listening to Judas Priest.
Yeah.
Come on. Yeah, it's like what the hell, guys?
Why wouldn't he be listening to Judas Priest?
I don't have a problem with
What's
the
wrong
Judas Priest.
No, for us, this kid's like 14, or he's driving. I guess he's 16. It's like 16-year-olds don't listen to Judas Priest. We listen to Judas Priest. You listen. I listen, but
This movie wasn't made for 16-year-olds. This movie was made for 40-year-olds.
What I'm saying. It's like there's all this dad rock in there. It's like,
Yeah, I thought the thing that they used it too much. It was like 3 or 4 different times. So they pulled it out.
Yeah, they put. Okay, so there was 3
love the
times
Hollies.
technically. There's the
Not in the
first.
Godzilla movie.
There's the opening where Kong is waking up, and then you've got Kong on the raft, and then you've got the very end of the movie with Kong and the Hollow Earth. Yes, and all 3 of those musical moments did stick in my craw.
They were jarring. They were jarring.
Now, let's move along from the soundtrack, and let's talk about who's in this. We'll begin with the familiar faces. We'll blast through this pretty quickly. Kyle Chandler as Mark Russell, and Millie Bobby Brown as Madison Russell, back to reprise their roles for maybe, for Kyle Chandler, maybe for a minute. And Millie Bobby Brown, of course, she has her own story with. We'll get to that in a second. Then you got Rebecca Hall as Eileen Andrews, the Jane Goodall of this movie, and Kaylee Hoddle as Gia, who I found to be the best connective tissue in this film entirely. I loved her in this film. Now let's talk about Brian Tyree Henry as Bernie Hayes. We don't have to talk about him too much, but I didn't realize that podcasting had become a trope in movies these days. Apparently, there's more than a few movies that feature podcasters. So, yes, got out of that game. Happy to have that happen. Oh wait, I forgot to talk about Julian as Josh Valentine. First up, congratulations on the killer name, dude. Josh Valentine is way cooler of a name than your character deserves. But
good porn name.
It's some kind of name for sure, but is it a name for Julian Dennison? I liked his character, but I didn't love his character. A lot of these characters I felt like, man, if I could only go in there and just futz with the wording a little bit and make these characters a little less annoying.
Was
I don't
that
know how
character
effective
even
that would be.
necessary?
Well, let's talk about that actually, because in terms of characters, we don't have as many characters as we had in the last movie. King of the Monsters had like 14 named characters, 14 characters that you were supposed to have like some kind of connection with and be like, okay, I remember that character when you leave the movie. Supposed to. Then this movie chopped 4 of them out. But I think that they chopped them out because they are like, they were supplemental and they were easily cut from the film because the director said there was like over 5 hours. There could be an over 5 hour long movie.
Please
Which no one, I don't know. I don't want that, you know. But
That's pretty typical, though.
sure, and I think what's happening today, and Martin can talk to this a lot too, is that they shoot a lot of stuff and then they pick what they want later. Less like, here's my page of the script. I'm going to shoot it this way and then shoot it this way slightly differently and shoot it this way slightly differently again. I think they're shooting lots and lots of stuff. Like, what if you said this over here? Is that how it goes these days, Martin?
Well, a lot of this too is, so the director was working with like Skarsgård, and they're like, this is his schedule, this is how long you have him, and you're going to shoot this. And so you're going to shoot all of this stuff, but half of the animatics of the film are already done. Like, they're already starting to work on all the visual effects for Kong and the battles and everything that's going on. So this director is like, yay, I'm going to work with Skarsgård for 2 weeks and we're going to shoot all this stuff. And then they're like, okay, well, what works with all the fight sequences that we've already built in CG? Oh, this looks really good. We'll throw Skarsgård in there. That works.
So let's talk about Skarsgård for a second, because he's next on here's the next actor list, Alexander Skarsgård as Nathan Lind. And man, I call him Tofu in this movie because essentially his character was cut back so much from what it originally was intended to be. And I have a quick sidebar about that. Shout out to AJ from Kaiju Live, who showed me, he linked an interview to me where Alexander Skarsgård is talking about his character. And after I'd seen the movie, I went back and watched this interview and I'm like, dude, what the hell is he talking about? None of this stuff happens in the movie. None of these characters interact with him in the movie. It was really bizarre to hear somebody talk about this entire role of a film that essentially got just hacked down to nothing but the tofu. So yes, Skarsgård, in my opinion, and this is not a huge knock on him. I think he's a great actor, honestly, but it's a knock on how they chopped out his character. So he's the guy that I guess he's like an independent thinker, which is why he's stuck in a basement, not being listened to, and then because he's an independent thinker, that's why he's a leader, I guess, tofu leader, and then he becomes the guy to shout orders every once in a while, even though he's just a thinker, I guess. Like, he's not a soldier. He's not a doctor necessarily. I don't know. Maybe he's a doctor. Anyway, I found him to be disappointing because he was too boring.
Well, he's so tropey, too. I mean, you couldn't have a more tropey character of the disgraced scientist who actually has the true information, and he has just a wealth of experience on every single thing. If anybody actually went into the Hollow Earth, they would not have any idea what to expect, and yet he was more than willing to give every minutia of detail about everything that was going on.
He's so the guy behind the bar. He's the guy behind the bar in Deadpool that says, "Here, maybe this will help move the plot along."
Yeah. And perhaps a different cut would have changed that character, but
I think so. But yeah.
And from what we saw on the screen, he could not be more milquetoast and just a character.
It could have been any actor.
Times. It could have been anybody.
It could have been any actor.
Yeah, they had some nice moments with him, which again make me happy that he was in the film. But some of those moments are then almost thrown away, just in terms of their emotional connection. Anyway, moving along, Eiza Gonzalez. Oh, were you going to say something else, Dave?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I like him as an actor in general. Mm-hmm. But when you think about it, he was really just kind of a spackle that they used on holes in the script.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Like, my favorite one is, here's this guy, and he's down in the basement, and he's like the disgraced scientist, and blah, 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 blah. who has no problem piloting the Heave vehicle.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's like
one of the most
like, oh, we need a pilot.
advanced things he'd ever.
Yeah.
This guy can just get in and drive it.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah, I agree. So anyway,
if it wasn't such a
script has
compressed
some-
time frame, I could buy it. If it was, this character was spending weeks or months,
Yes.
like trying to get Kong to the Hollow Earth entrance, it would have been one thing. But it's like maybe 36 hours.
Oh yeah.
it's a fast-paced
Kong
film.
crawled out of the center of the earth in 6 minutes.
Yes, exactly.
Less than that, it seemed like. And
Yeah.
they were in that Heave vehicle, and they still were behind Kong. I'm like,
Yeah.
what the hell's going on?
It's-
But
there's some WTF moments.
There was a lot of suspension of disbelief needed in this one.
Yeah, in a movie called Godzilla vs. King Kong.
I know.
I agree. But there's a point where it does strain the credulity of the events when you have something like, well, they fall for nearly a minute,
Yep.
and then 10 seconds after Godzilla burned a hole through the earth, like Kong crawls out of it.
So we're into it, Kyle. We're into it, Kyle.
We're into it, but
reeling it in.
it's time for me to like rein you guys back because I gotta finish my PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, you do.
I mean, talk about boring characters. Eiza Gonzalez is beautiful, but she did absolutely nothing in the film.
So
All right.
She offended.
Damian Bichir as Walter Simmons. I wanted to hate him more.
Right.
I wanted them to actually like. I'm proud. I'm not proud. I'm happy that they gave non-white character representation in this film in this as this character. But man, I was just expecting this to be a terrible jerk white person, and he's like it's like this like smooth velvety speaking.
Yeah.
he's like
I love that
a
guy.
bad Bond villain. It's just.
And then in addition
The
to
whitest man in
Walter
the
Simmons, did you guys know that Mr. Sarazawa is actually supposed to be related to Dr. Sarazawa
Yeah,
from
it's
the
his
previous
son.
film?
His estranged son.
I caught the name in the movie, and I thought, well, that's an odd reference to drop. Why would they? What a coincidence!
Apparently, the novelization goes into a lot of detail about his father abandoning him for his research towards Godzilla and him being resentful and wanting to
really?
get back at Godzilla for it. But
That
do
makes
you
more
get any of
sense.
that in the film? Unfortunately, no.
Mm-mm. I am tempted to read the audio or to listen to the audiobook for Godzilla vs. Kong's novelization, but I was more interested in it with King of the Monsters because I love that one much more than this film. But anyway,
Did you listen to the audiobook for King of the Monsters?
I did. Yeah.
Are there
I
sound
did.
effects?
No, not so much. The Star Wars audiobooks did that stuff, but the King of the Monsters one didn't. It did have some music, I think, in it, but what I will say is the thing that I wanted when I left King of the Monsters is I wanted to learn more about Monarch and those other Titans, and so that was the main draw for me going into that film. Not into the film, into the book, is to learn more about what they didn't show in the film. So in the same vein, I kind of want to do that for Godzilla vs. Kong, especially since I'm hearing that some of the stuff that got cut out is actually in the book, which is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Anyway, Sarazawa, yes, completely is just as big a throwaway reference as the oxygen destroyer was in King of the Monsters. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. That's going to do it for our PowerPoint presentation aspect of this film.
Okay, let's get up the slam of the movie.
Let's get ready for that. Actually, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a 2-minute break. While we are breaking, though, I wanted to make sure that everybody who's watching live is aware of what we're going to be doing. We're going to go through our standard Daikaiju discussion format, where I will basically one by one ask my co-hosts here what they thought of the movie, what they liked the most, what they liked the least, and in the end, we'll do sort of our final thoughts. What we are looking for from you guys watching live is to throw out bite-sized comments about that kind of stuff. If you have things that you wanted to say about this film, just make sure they're bite-sized so that when we put them up in the actual screen, it's completely readable by people. All right. So
Oh, Mike, you just opened the door.
Oh, actually, hang on a second. Dave, this is it. This is your opportunity. This is your Easter egg opportunity.
Oh, we got the numbers?
Yeah, we're at 27.
Okay. All right. Oh, we'll take it. All right. Okay, so I'm going to assume somebody else has found this because people always pay more. There's nerds out there that pay way more attention to this kind of stuff than I do. However, let's go back. 2018, Rose City Comic Con. Jeff, you were there. We do our panel.
Here, let me help you out.
Hey, look, there we go. There we are. There's Gretchen and Rachel. And okay, so we do this. We're talking about like all these, these movies and what could have been and what was and blah 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 blah. And my bit was on the Terry Rossio, Ted Elliott movie that Jan de Bont was supposed to direct, and went to roll Devlin and Emmerich because they basically lied to Sony and stole the project. And everybody hates that movie because it's horrible. Okay, so we're doing it. We do this whole thing. I'm in contact with Terry Rossio. He's a really nice guy. He's interested in doing this. He's like, no, I don't want to do your podcast, but here's a graphic novel, blah, 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 blah. We do this. It goes up on the Kaiju Cast, episode 245. You can go to the iTunes store or whatever, get episode 245, listen to it. It's fun. Ta-da. Godzilla vs. Kong starts. Right after the credits, we meet Bernie, Titan Truth Podcast. He starts, welcome to episode 245.
That's awesome.
Okay. Is this a coincidence? No! There is no way that is a coincidence. Terry Rossio, episode 245, episode 245. It's like any number. They could have chosen any number in the world. 245. Kaiju Cast is an Easter egg in Godzilla vs. Kong. Boom!
Boom. There you go.
Boom!
It is a conspiracy, isn't it, Sane?
It is not a conspiracy. It is the truth. It was intentional. It is right there.
Yes, indeed. Well, there you go. There are no coincidences, Ern says.
Yeah, that line is even in the movie.
That's right. That line is in the movie.
There are no coincidences. We're famous. We're a part of culture.
We're the poppest of culture.
We're the poppest of culture.
All right, so we are going to take a 2-minute break, and when we come back, we are going to get into the nitty-gritty of Godzilla versus Kong. But because YouTube has such strict robots out there patrolling for copyrighted material, we're not going to have the trailer for Godzilla versus Kong. We're going to have an even better one.
Godzilla, blazing a trail of terror to his Japanese homeland.
Captain, water in the conning tower. Godzilla!
Roaring defiance to the only enemy on Earth strong enough to challenge him. The unconquerable King Kong, giant gorilla god of this South Seas paradise, where sensuous maidens offer themselves in ritual sacrifice to his brute embrace.
Godzilla has a brain about this size. He is sheer brute force. While Kong is a thinking animal. His brain is considerably larger. Being instinctive rivals, there is no doubt that they will attempt to destroy one another.
King Kong versus Godzilla, heading for their colossal collision, shattering every obstacle that stands between them in the most fantastic rampage of annihilation ever recorded on film. King Kong stamp Tokyo into the ground, holding a beautiful girl in his grasp. See Godzilla destroy an entire army. See King Kong trapped by the blazing barrier of 1 billion volts. But nothing, nobody can stop the great showdown when King Kong and Godzilla meet to fight for survival of the fittest.
Hey, there you go. There's our trailer for the Daikaiju discussion. Thank you for your patience as this played out on your screen. Thanks again to everybody who's watching live. We did finally hit the 30 mark, Dave. And just a couple of shout outs here. We said hello to a bunch of people earlier, but we'll still say hello to them again. That would be Ern. And hey, Sandra Chambers is here. Mike Keller, what's up? David Dopko, my homie. Sugar Katzen, I don't know who you are, but due to you too. Oh, right on. Let's see. Justin Green, we already said hi to you. What's up? Good to see you still around. D Duval 59, thanks for being here. I agree with you. Most of the King of the Monsters characters sucked. We're going to be doing this while we actually have the discussion as well. Greg Coggin, what's up? GFan2299, thanks for still being here. Ken Blos, you said something about no girls, and that's because unfortunately Rachel and Gretchen are out with monster-related illnesses or injuries, but that's fine because you are watching the Titan Truth podcast, and we are just about to get kicked off talking about King Kong versus Godzilla's remake in 2021, Godzilla versus Kong. And I gotta ask my main man Martin, who's been my longest co-hosts, tell me a little bit, man, about your initial thoughts when you first saw Godzilla versus Kong. And how did you see it? And how many times have you seen it too? Man, I gotta let you do that. Just kidding, it's live.
Yeah, so I did see it in a movie theater. And I loved seeing it in a movie theater. It's the third film that I've watched coming back out of the pandemic and having movie theaters sort of open-ish again. So this is my first blockbuster film coming out of all of this. So I was super happy, really excited. And I know this is all going to sound really weird because I did vote for more films to come out and all of this stuff. My initial reaction, there's some stuff in here that I really, really liked that I think was really, really good. And then there's other stuff where I'm just like, oh, this is Nothing Matters, the film. And it was just like, let's just get this over with. We know the thing, this like the aircraft carrier battle. We got to get to that. We got to get to this battle. We got to get to these things. So they're just like, what? Like, oh, nope, we're just moving on. And that kind of bums me out because I did feel like by the time the movie was over with and it was all done and they finally were able to release it in the theaters and HBO, someone was like, oh, this is actually this might actually do kind of well. We might actually be able to make more movies. We probably should have maybe mapped this out a little bit better and made something else.
Well, if you think about like when the King of the Monsters came out, right? And we were just looking at those numbers, like it didn't do as well financially. I'm sure that somebody was probably wringing their hands about that at Legendary, but thankfully for kaiju fans out there, they had already been shooting this movie while they were making King of the Monsters. So I'm sure they had too much to actually say, no, we're not going to do it.
Well, and this film is more of a Kong sequel to Skull Island than it is, and it's all part of this whole MonsterVerse, and I don't know how many they had ever decided to map out before they pulled the plug at 4. But I don't know. Like, I still resent King of the Monsters for making me like Godzilla 2014. So this, I kind of went into this one. I'm like, okay, we're just getting this over with. And then it was over, and I was like, dang it, there was some good stuff in here. Like, I want this to, they can obviously do better. they can do really well. There's stuff in here that's so good, and yeah. So anyway, that's my takeaway. I don't know how much detail you want. We got 7 O's to go through, so I'm not going to eat up all the air.
All right, no worries. So Jeff, tell me how many times you've seen the film, and what were your initial thoughts when you first saw it, man?
I saw it twice, both times on HBO Max. And the first time I saw it, I thought it was fine, just like all these other movies in this series. There are, things I liked about it and things I kind of, made me want to puke my guts out a little bit. But, it's like, but that's kind of the way it is with these giant, humongous blockbusters. While watching it, because I love Godzilla and Kong, I love the characters, but, it's kind of like watching, a bunch of cotton candy being made. It's just like, I don't know, it's just like completely kind of ludicrous. And I understand it's a movie called Godzilla vs. Kong. I mean, what do you expect? And in that regards, it's fine. The things I like. You want me to get into the things I liked about it? Or are we doing that later?
No, we're gonna go back into that. This is just initial thoughts, and so that means it's time to turn.
It was fine. It was fine.
It was fine. Dave, did you think it was fine? And how many times did you see it?
Seen it twice, just like Jeff. Both times on HBO Max. My initial reaction was, okay, I'm not as angry at HBO Max for making me watch Wonder Woman 84 anymore. so that's a plus. My second reaction was, wow, Brian Cook hated this movie. You can just tell. Anybody who listened to Kaiju Cast knows how Brian was like, oh my God, Brian is throwing things at his television. I liked it. I thought it was fun. Quite frankly, 13 months into a pandemic, fun is more than I can ask for. Let's go.
Wow, I don't know what happened there. That was awesome. Somebody's got some issues. Sweet. I think we're getting a live remix out of here.
Is it all of us?
I don't know. I'm going to have to go through and individually figure out who it is.
Sounds like
I like how it's basically me. Oh, hang on a second. I muted Jeff, and that seemed to actually stop it. Oh, El Jefe. What is going on there? Is it still happening? Okay, it's not happening now. How about now? I don't hear it.
No, it's gone now.
Okay.
That was weird.
Yes. Hey, yeah. This live stream technology. Sometimes it bugs out. Okay. Sorry to interrupt you, sir.
I don't even know what I was talking about. I liked it. It's like I think that like we just need it. We need some popcorn. We need a popcorn movie right now. We need to like just lighten up. And it's this dumb movie there are no stakes to enjoying this movie. You have to watch a bunch of monsters, fight it out. In a neon city. Admittedly, I liked it better when it was in Pacific Rim, but okay, we can have it in Godzilla vs. Kong 2. All the actors chewed the scenery like it was doused in ranch. What do you do? Martin knows what I'm talking about. Like we talk about the directors all the time. Like Adam Wingard and Gareth Edwards, the DP. We should be talking about the DP for this. I don't even know who it is. Martin, do you know who it is? Yeah, he's the guy who probably saved this movie. Yeah. I would imagine that because Wingard's just not a good director. He's not a bad director. He's just not a good director.
Ben Saracen?
But that's pretty common with a lot of these too. That they get. Look at the guy who did Jurassic World. His prior film to that was Safety Not Guaranteed. Like they get these guys who pulled off a little indie hit. Because they're like, hey, we're going to give you some money and go play with some big actors for a while we make this film in post. And that's pretty typical. And you get you get a Adam Wingard, who's a good director.
Yeah, he's fine. But yeah,
he's fine. I think it for me, I don't actually have any. I never had any druthers and like, oh, I'd rather have so and so director film. So
I'd
for
have
me,
Michael
it's
Dougherty do it again.
well, like let's not. I loved that film. I loved what he did with that film. So yes, I would agree with you. But in terms of like bringing on new people, I had only heard of Doherty because of Trick or Treat, really, and I'd only heard of Gareth Edwards because of being a Monster fan and because Monsters came out.
Did he direct the X-Men movie or did he just write it?
Who?
Who's involved with an X-Men movie?
Gareth Edwards?
No, Michael Dougherty.
I'm not sure about that one.
Okay.
But
I mean,
don't quote me. I don't know all the X-Men stuff.
The big budget
I don't produce that podcast.
special effects movies. This is something he does.
Yeah, he does that stuff. I actually don't know what he's working on next, but I know, like I said, I know he did actually work on this, but he was more in the writer's room.
Yeah.
All right, back to it though. I want to hear from Sane. Tell me a little bit about you. Saw this in the theater too, right?
Yeah, I saw it opening night. We got our tickets early. I think I saw it like 4:00 on its opening night. Enjoyed it, but I mean, much to Martin's point, it was seeing it in the theater, and I love theaters so much. It was so refreshing to see a movie I would have watched paint dry, I think, in the theater, honestly. And then watched it again on HBO Max, probably 4 or 5 times.
Oh,
but
wow.
not all the way through. I'm watching key moments on HBO Max, so because I'm dissecting kind of just the way they constructed the action scenes. I could not give an F about the rest of the movie, honestly. It's bad. I mean, it's arguably the second worst movie in the series as far as anything to do with the human dynamic. I was not particularly thrilled by the Kong Skull Island. I thought it was fine. I enjoyed it, but I didn't think of. But like that now looks like a shining beacon on a hill comparatively. And actually,
100%.
Now that I watched it again, because we watched Kong before Skull Island. Colleen hadn't seen it, my girlfriend, and so I showed it to her so she'd be able to catch up for watching Godzilla vs. Kong. And I think that has the most likable characters in the whole franchise. Like between John C. Reilly and Tom Hiddleston. Not so much Brie Larson because she's kind of a black hole of charisma in everything she's in. But
Okay, I'm logging out now. Bye.
Yeah, we'll talk privately about it. But no, I enjoyed it for what it was. Just as Dave said, it's like I think anything would have looked great at this point in the world we're in currently. I love that Godzilla won the fights because that's what I wanted to happen. Because
hell yes,
Kong was not going to win those fights, and I think that was fine. And the spoiler of the unspoiler of Mechagodzilla appearing in it was enjoyable as well. I didn't love his design, but I also get where they came from for it. But I enjoyed it well enough.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Mr. Adam Alexander, I'm definitely interested in hearing what you had to say when you first saw the film, and how many times did you actually see this?
So I've seen it 3 times. On HBO Max, the day it came out, I took off work. My wife had the day off work as well. Around 4:00 in the afternoon, we started the movie. We finished it. We immediately watched it again.
Wow.
And I watched it last night around midnight. So I've seen it 3 times. A little bit of backstory. I very distinctly, I'm lifelong Godzilla fan, like I'm sure most everybody else here, and I very distinctly remember being like 5 years old, one of my earliest memories, and being allowed to stay up late for, I don't know why it was on late, to watch King Kong versus Godzilla on this little black and white television. And what has carried me through as a Godzilla fan throughout my whole adult life is not looking back at those movies and rewatching those old movies as an adult and critiquing the acting, the plot, anything along those lines. I've got King Kong versus Godzilla on in the background right now, and it's horrendous from perspective. What has made me a lifelong fan is that sense of wonder that I had as a kid, watching King Kong battle Godzilla, watching all of these various, like, the Toho monsters go toe to toe, and not being till like later as an adult, like seeing the strings and seeing the suitmation and seeing all the bad scripts and everything along those lines. To that extent, like, I love the movie. It was great. I had zero expectations as far as character development, or I didn't expect the plot to be ironclad. I was pleasantly surprised at that there was characters that I did enjoy, like the little girl, like her adoptive mother. I even like the smooth Mexican villain, and in spite of how pointless the characters were, I always enjoy seeing Millie Bobby Brown on screen. But I went into the thing to have that same sense of wonder that I had as a kid and watch Godzilla versus Kong. And anything that was this with CGI, anything that had the monsters on it was glorious. The CGI was amazing. The fights were amazing. The choreography was amazing. It was the scenery, the hidden Earth, Hollow Earth spectacle. Was everything I was looking for. And none of the characters disappointed me because they didn't really have any interest in being invested in them. If I'm seeing like a Marvel movie or really any other like non-blockbuster that like focuses on human characters, then bad characters, bad writing, bad dialogue, bad story is all going to bother me. If I'm seeing Godzilla versus Kong, then I'm going to go see Godzilla versus Kong. And to that extent, the movie delivered on all fronts. I was thoroughly pleased. I was just as excited watching it the second time after having just watched it the first time. I was just as excited watching it last night. I enjoyed it thoroughly. And to just piggyback on some of what was said before, I really don't like the 2014 movie. I thought it was extremely disappointing from the point of view of watching Godzilla. And
absolutely.
And Kong was okay. I like Kong. It was a pretty good movie. I'm more of a Godzilla fan than a Kong fan. I thought Godzilla King of the Monsters was great because it had all of these monsters and they were fighting and it was awesome. So, and the characters, nobody was so bad that it annoyed me. They were at best like, all right, forgettable. And when I watch this for a fourth or fifth time, I'll probably play on my phone during this, scene of dialogue. But as it is, love the movie. Loved it. And look forward to watching it a fourth and fifth time.
Right on. So Charlie, I got to know, what about you, man? How did you feel when you walked out of your first experience watching Godzilla versus Kong?
I did not go to the theater to see it. I, of course, watched it on HBO Max. I've seen it at least 1.5 times. I didn't watch the second time around. I didn't watch the first half. I just wanted to watch the last half, and because of the reasons that we've all talked about already, which is the characters aren't that interesting to me, and there's a little bit too much of that in the beginning. So get to the later half of the movie where you get a lot more of the action, jumping on battleships and whatever. It's fine. It's what I was expecting, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. The kids enjoyed it. Hillary and my wife enjoyed it. So it was a fun evening. And of course, I also had to watch it a second time because I think I had an extra bourbon during that second half of the first time. But it was fun, and I'm as much of a fan of Godzilla as I am, and I love watching all those movies. I am definitely sometimes more of a King Kong guy. I've got my Manhattan in honor of King Kong.
Awesome.
Manhattan, get it? Anyways,
Nice.
So I loved watching Kong in this movie. I actually, of the 4 movies, I kind of like Kong Skull Island more than any of the others. But I think I'm probably in the minority there. Part of it, the characters I think are a lot more appealing in that movie. Not that that's the reason I'm watching the movie, but I thought the portrayal of Kong in that movie was actually better than some other more recent representations of Kong, and so I enjoyed it. And in this one, it was almost Kong's movie. So
it definitely was Kong's movie.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed that.
Kong got the character work. Godzilla got the defeats.
Yeah,
as in, like he defeated.
Yeah.
Well, I think Adam Wingard said that Kong or Godzilla won the fights and Kong won the war in some way. So it makes sense. Not to steal from Charlie here.
Yeah, no, it's fine. And you know, and I do like that about this movie. I mean, I could go into all the things I don't like. There are things that I don't like about it, but I thought the portrayal of the monsters was good. I like the action, and you know, at this point in time, it's inexcusable to have bad CGI, and they didn't. They did a really good job on
No,
that.
they did not.
Probably the best CGI I've seen in a film recently.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and which is great. I mean, that they're obviously they know where to spend the money. This one costs less than all the others, but I think that's just because they paid some actors less, which is probably the right thing to do in this kind of movie. So, anyways, we can continue. But I overall I enjoyed it, and probably will watch it again. So,
I know, being the most massive Terminator fan I've ever known, how did you like the T-800 Godzilla?
I wasn't going to go too much into the Mecha Godzilla just yet, but I have that gets to one of my problems with the movie, and not specifically this movie. Actually, it's just the series of 4 movies that we have so far in the MonsterVerse is the jump in technology between the movies.
Yeah.
It's not that I have a problem with that it takes place. It's the fact that it's completely unexplained, in my opinion. Maybe I missed something, but when you start off with 2014, it's a fairly realistic,
definitely,
with
for sure.
what we have as technology in 2014, and you know, Kong Skull Island, that's a totally different thing, but it's grounded in its own technology of the 60s, early 70s rather. So when you get to King of Monsters, it starts to up the ante a bit, and I'm like, okay, this is clearly not taking place in 2019 or whenever that movie came out. This feels like now a movie that's taking place, you know, 20 years in the future or something. And then you get to this one, and it's like, forget about it. It's all fantasy. So,
we saw that exact same progression in the original Toho movies, too,
right?
So.
Yeah, and so it's not a complaint as much as, you know, if you're going to do that, I would appreciate a little thought in the explanation of that. I mean, just even tell me that it's like 20 years in the future. I'm like, all right, fine.
Yeah.
I think
they don't really go there. They play it as present day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, this is, you know.
That's why I called it Nothing Matters the movie.
Yeah. There's a throwaway line that says it's been 5 years since the events of King of the Monsters.
Okay.
Billy Bobby Brown says, but you know, it's so quick, and they don't go any further. And 5 years is obviously still not enough to.
No.
You know.
25 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think, you know, the jumps in technology were, I think that's in some way they might have explained all that in the cutting room floor footage that we don't have.
Probably.
But I completely agree with you about that. And I'm sorry to move along, because we do have to move along to our next points. But I agree with you, because when I walked out of the film, there were definitely moments where I was like, what was that? You know, but for the most part, I found Godzilla vs. Kong to be fun. And if you're wondering how many times I've seen the film, I actually don't know if I could answer that, because I have HBO Max here, which means I have unfettered access to watching Godzilla vs. Kong. The only thing that would stop me from watching it incessantly would just be the you know, in preparation for the Daikaiju discussion, would be the fact that I have a life that has to, you know, take up hours and hours of my real day. But, you know, really, I enjoyed my initial thoughts of Godzilla vs. Kong, where it was super fun, which is what I wanted in a film. And while there were things that bothered me, there were more of those in this film than there were in the 2019 film. But at the same time, this movie had like way better delivery when it comes to the monster action, the fighting that took place, the big giant battles, all that stuff I was super happy with. And and we'll talk a little bit more in detail as we continue. But I would imagine that I've seen the film probably 5 or 6 times now, just because it's available to me all the time. And yeah, Lady Kyle and I have watched it like a couple of times together, and we're at the point right now where if we throw it on, we'll just talk at the movie the entire time, like really break it down, because that's what everybody's missing right now these days. Anyway, so let's see. So once again, thanks to everybody who's watching live. Let's talk a little bit about what people had to say. There was some ranking going on in the live chat room that I'll throw up in just a second, but we'll go around the room just super fast. Rank the Monsterverse, right? So for me, since camera's on me right now, and I don't want to just drop anybody into this, for me, the number 1 film is Godzilla King of the Monsters. I would probably put Godzilla vs. Kong at number 2, and then Skull Island and Godzilla 2014 are really tied for 3 and 4 as far as I am concerned. Martin, do you have a ranking that you could just whip out right now?
I do. I like Skull Island first, and then I think 2014 and Godzilla vs. Kong are tied, and then King of the Monsters. All
right. How about you, Jeff?
Yeah, let me whip out my ranking. Skull Island, number 1, King of the Monsters 2, Godzilla vs. Kong 3, and the 2014 last.
All right. And saying that puts you next.
My ranking is the same as yours. It's probably King of the Monsters, GV, K, then Skull Island in 2014.
Right on. And Mr. Hellfree?
Skull Island, Godzilla vs. Kong, King of the Monsters, 2014.
Adam?
I think the same as yours. King of the Monsters, Godzilla vs. Kong, Skull Island, and then I would put the 2014 like 6th or 7th place, and just imagine that anything else they make will be better than that.
We all owe the 2014 a little bit of credit for kicking this off, but
I would say this about the 2014 film, that what we're talking about in terms of the leaps of technology and the fact that the 2014 film grounded us in reality. I look back on that now, and I kind of appreciate that. The insanity that is Godzilla vs. Kong, with the crazy heave vehicles and the tunnels that take you from Pensacola, Florida to Hong Kong in 20 minutes or whatever. Yeah. Like, all of that technology jumping, like, yeah, when I look back on on the first Godzilla movie, I'm like, wow, I kind of do appreciate how everybody in that movie just seems like a real person with a real job.
Well, I think they learned their lesson, because after that movie, the biggest complaint was they cut away from all the monster action, and in the subsequent films, that's what they concentrated on, which is what everybody wants, right? Mm-hmm. Is all the monster battles and stuff.
Let's not forget Mr. Babbage here.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, dude.
That's all right. All right, ranking.
Rank it.
Skull Island, no question. I will actually put Godzilla versus King Kong. And I always want to say Kong versus Godzilla, but that's just me.
Of course.
Pretty tied with King of the Monsters, but I'll put it ahead. And then 2014 is at the bottom, but I don't despise it. I just I wish it was a little more.
Just a little more.
Just a little more Godzilla.
A lot more.
Yeah. And if you're interested in hearing us talk all about what we liked and didn't like about these films right after we saw them, feel free to head back to the KaijuCast archives. Over 245 episodes worth of content. I mean, the Titan Tooth podcast, I want to see if that's available.com. Anyway, yeah, so that's where we're at with the rankings. Thank you for joining us there in the chat room, showing off your rankings too. I think now is where we go into what we like the best. So I'll start with Martin. When you think about this film in total, like now, what did you like the best about this film?
Most of the time I think it's a cop-out when people say that special effects are good, because we're at a point where it's like, man, if a movie can't do good special effects, then what's happening? But with this film, the effects were really good, and I loved these fights. The fight on the aircraft carrier and through the water and all that stuff was so good. That's where I was in. Like, that whole battle sequence was really great. And when they did the stuff in Hong Kong, that was excellent too.
The action. The action was probably your favorite part.
It's action, but it's like all the way it was designed, because a lot of complaints when there's monsters or battles or anything, and people always usually the night battles. People complain about, it was night, it was dark, it was hard to see, and it was raining and all of this stuff.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
But man, that Hong Kong setup with just the lights and the way it all worked, it was so good. It was really well done, really well thought out, executed. Yeah, it was great. Paced really well. So yeah, that was good. It was really good.
Right on, man. El Jefe, I gotta know, favorite part of Godzilla vs. Kong?
Well, I echo what Martin says in that, the battle scenes are definitely the highlight. The aircraft carrier scene was, I thought, fantastic. The end scene with Godzilla and Kong against Mechagodzilla was great. And I liked how you could actually get a sense of place, and they're well choreographed. Like a lot of action scenes, it's like quick cuts and this and that. You have no idea where anybody actually is. But in this one, it was just well choreographed, and I liked how there's only one night scene. The aircraft carriers during the day. The final battle with Mechagodzilla is in the morning and stuff. So it's all well lit and everything, and that's like the best part of the movie to me. Those two sequences.
Ern asks is that really what Hong Kong looks like? And I will just go ahead and answer you. It is a little exaggerated, Ern, but
exaggerated.
This is what it looks like. I mean, it's pretty neon. They've really built it up, built up the neon in the past several years or so. But yeah, so moving on though. Let's see, who would that leave us to now? That would be Sane, right?
I thought it was Dave. Sorry.
Sane, what was your favorite part of Godzilla vs. Kong?
And this is because I am a huge Godzilla fan more than Kong. I like how clearly outmatched Kong was compared to Godzilla. And that an important part of the movie. I mean, Godzilla was obviously not just his heat, Ray, but just in general, I mean, he's a bigger, stronger, meaner monster. And so to place Kong in that kind of underdog role of even with the axe, even with his smarts and his agility, he's still just completely outmatched. It made for a more engaging fight whenever they had to clash on screen. Because we all kind of appreciate that, the hero not being incredibly overpowered. And, and Godzilla was cast as the villain to some degree in this movie. Obviously not outrightly villainous, but, he was the heavy. And so you needed him to just be an overwhelming force, that Kong had to try and fight. I appreciated that. It was fun. It made more sense than the original movie, as much as I love the 1962 film. So they were... Yeah, and I was going to say my favorite part, hands down, was the nods to Shin Godzilla when Godzilla was using his, atomic breath at Kong, just slicing buildings in two. And Kong just barely being able to escape it. I actually really appreciated that.
That was a great shot.
Definitely. The Die Hard homage, but everything else I appreciated.
The Die Hard homage where Kong jumps off the aircraft carrier?
I already don't like Die Hard, so I didn't really think it was funny. So, I know I'm in a minority there. Most people love Die Hard, and I cannot understand why. But yeah, no, I really appreciated how just powerful they made Godzilla. Which made me slightly resentful that he was so useless in his fight against Mechagodzilla. That reversal didn't make a lot of sense to me, but oh well. I still think probably that just it's not any different than what everybody else is saying. It's like the fights are the best part of the movie. So of course they're the part that I like the best as well. So
Dave, do you agree?
Completely with everything that all three of these guys said, especially the things that Sane was pointing out about Godzilla getting his due. 57 years later or whatever it is, I'm still angry that Godzilla lost in the 62 film. It's garbage.
Oh yeah.
Like, electricity gives Kong strength. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. You guys couldn't. You wrote yourself in a corner, and you didn't want. It's like this. He got it back, and I love that. And I'm right there with Sane. It's like when Mechagodzilla started just wiping the floor with Godzilla, I was like, this isn't so good. But I get it.
Well, he didn't get any licks in. That was the big thing.
Yeah. I mean, like because they wanted, like, it's like, Kong can't be Mechagodzilla, but and Godzilla can't be Mechagodzilla, but teamwork makes the dream work, and so they start working together, and it's like, I mean, I also appreciate the fact that, like, what Sane was saying is that he's so outclassed. Kong is so outclassed by Godzilla that even his ancestors knew that the only way they could beat a Godzilla was to make a weapon out of a dead Godzilla. And the other thing that I did appreciate is at no point in the movie did they go, "Hey, look, he's got an axe made out of a dead Godzilla." I really appreciated that.
Can I say something super fast about that? This not having to explain stuff. I think that there's definitely. I agree with you. And I have watched films so many times where I'm like, God, why are they explaining every little thing? Get the audience a little credit, Right. But I will say that I wish they had split the difference in this film, because there was so much that they didn't explain that in the end of this film, I was like, well, that didn't make sense. Like, give me some kind of connective tissue from this part to that part, please. I'm the kind of guy that I want those connections. I want to. I want to be like. I want to be like. Tell me that so I can geek out about it.
They had to leave that stuff out. I mean, talk about a 5-hour movie. It would have 45 minutes to get Kong onto the aircraft carrier.
God, was it really that long?
How long would it have taken Alexander Skarsgård to climb off of Kong after he set that? No, seriously. Kong's like, what?
No, you're totally
laying
right.
on the ground. He's still 7 stories tall, or something. And like Alexander Skarsgård just flips the switch, and the next scene he's running on the ground, and it's like, how? Nothing matters the film. I love the way Martin put it.
Nothing matters the film.
Nothing matters the film.
All right.
I mean, to Adam's earlier point, who cares? We love that. We love the fights. We love that we're here for the monsters. It doesn't matter.
Well, admittedly, I do care. I do care a little bit, and I don't need to have.
You've got a unique perspective.
Well,
as a filmmaker.
I don't think that's true, because the level of aficionados that are part of this is, pretty deep with everybody here. So you don't have to do everything in like massive expositions and giant monologues, but then you don't have to have Nothing Matters the Film either. I think there can be a balance, but when you're shooting the film and you're writing the film all at the same time, that stuff gets lost. A film is so hard to make anyway. It's so difficult, and you're in the weeds the whole time, and there's so much, and you're shooting out of sequence, and you're shooting in locations and studios, and stuff's being built while it's being torn down, while it's being designed, while it's being written, while it's being recast, because whatever. And like, it's so nuts. I mean, just the fact that it gets done is like a miracle. So it's really hard to hit that middle ground of being just right where you're not over explaining it, where it's not exposition the film as opposed to Nothing Matters the Film.
Ooh, is that the polar opposite there. Exposition the film versus nothing matters the film. You
Yeah,
gotta fall somewhere there on that spectrum.
It's really hard to hit that middle because, yeah, if everybody did sit there and, you know, we spent 5 pages explaining the orca, who cares? No one would have cared after a while.
God, I love the orca.
Yeah, and we didn't have the orca in this one because nothing matters.
Oh, but you did, my friend. Because the orca is what was in the Mechagodzilla brain in Pensacola, Florida that kicked off the whole movie, essentially. They, again, didn't freaking explain it. So the orca, see, the way I'm torn on this is because there's this super fan in me that's like, yeah, man, cool. Don't explain it. Freak out the squares, dude. But the problem is if you don't give anybody any hints, then it's like then you have to ask yourself, is that what that was? You know,
I didn't catch that at all.
I didn't catch it yet.
Yeah, so inside of Mechagodzilla, next time you watch it, there's some kind of orca technology.
And there will be a next time.
But but that's a really good point, though, because you said I don't know how you caught that, but they did drop the fact that they're. Dang it!
It's deep cut stuff, though. If you weren't picking up on the audio cue, the single audio cue that went, you know, like that, and you didn't know that was from the orca from the last movie. Or if you were like a bunch of people and probably didn't pay attention to the last movie. Not saying anybody on this panel did that, but I'm just saying, like, overall, I think a lot of people go into these movies, they're like, I'm just here for the monster action. And I understand those arguments, but at the same time, I'm looking for monster action wrapped up into really good entertainment. And so when I make a complaint about, oh, that didn't make sense, and then somebody comes back, Connor, and says, oh, if you're looking for realism in a Godzilla versus Kong movie, then you're missing the enjoyment of the movie. I think there can be both. There can be the happy medium.
That's my argument.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Anyway, now I interrupted someone else to talk to somebody else because we were moving on from Dave to Adam.
Or Adam, yeah.
Yeah. So, favorite part of the movie?
Well, I mean, of course, the monster battles. That goes without saying. The CGI, the battles, it's what I was there for, like I said, and it was amazing. But on a larger scale, my wife is a big King Kong fan. She had no interest really in monster movies, Godzilla, King Kong, anything along those lines. And, you know, so a couple of years ago, I made her finally watch the original King Kong movie. She was quiet throughout the entire thing. There was this suspense whether I just wasted an hour and a half of her time. And at the end of it, she said, I loved it. It was amazing. She bought it the next day. She loves King Kong. She loves Skull Island. And she says, I don't understand why you like Godzilla. He's just this lumbering monster that destroys things. And I said, exactly. Aside from just the battles itself, the thing that I really enjoyed about Godzilla vs. Kong was how much it was a continuation of both those separate franchises, both those separate types of movie. As has been said by other people here, of course this was a Kong movie because King Kong has charisma, King Kong has personality, King Kong actually communicates to like people, like little girls.
Well, he can also humanly emote, which Godzilla can't.
Exactly.
And Toho put an edict in that said that Godzilla was not to emote.
And I think that's great. Yeah. I'm all for that because I want King Kong to be that way, and that's what my wife was rooting for. And I personally want Godzilla to be this relatively emotionless, indomitable, unstoppable, destructive force that just is like a hurricane, less than a person. So to that extent, the battles kind of just basically I guess realized that conflict. We were mostly still rooting for Kong as like the person who had stake in things that we cared about, but at the same time I was also rooting for Godzilla more often, just in terms of, yes, well, he's just so powerful, he should destroy everything, and that would satisfy the inner Adam. So I guess the battles and how they related to being both Kong and Godzilla in terms of theme.
Godzilla does emote though.
He
There are a
does
couple
emote.
of shots. There's a couple of shots in there that were beautiful. I was noticing.
I think
CGI.
when you're comparing it to Kong, though,
No,
I mean you're talking about like Kong has this ability to emote like crazy, and like even though I think Adam Wingard, if they told him, Toho said, don't make Godzilla emote, he probably did that and was like, but what about this? What about if he did this?
Yeah.
You know,
there's that one close up of Godzilla when they're fighting and when he's like in Hong Kong, and it just says, "I'm gonna f your ass up, monkey."
Yeah,
and it just he's got that like evil smile.
Godzilla's
just a little evil laugh for a second.
Godzilla's got levels of anger.
Catching Godzilla in the
really
back,
angry,
the back.
just sort of angry, focused anger, general anger. I mean, I wouldn't say he emotes so much as he has levels of determination.
Okay, all right, okay, I'll buy that. I mean, and then at the end, after Mechagodzilla is defeated, there's the close up on Godzilla again, and he's like, "Okay, I'm not gonna f your ass up, monkey. I'm gonna go home." And then he does.
He still seemed angry. He was so angry. I thought they were going to fight again.
Well, a lot of that does come down to the character's design. They permanently created a scowl on that character's face, so it's hard for him to do a lot otherwise. And I mean, Kong has human features, so that helps a lot. So, yeah I agree with the Godzilla mostly emotes their body language.
Yeah. All right, so I guess that leaves me with Charlie. Tell me what you like the best about this film.
Everybody summed up my feelings pretty well. I mean, it's just to repeat. I mean, it's the action. It's the visual design is actually really nice. The character design, and this version of Godzilla, I actually like the design of. I think he actually looks better in this movie than he does in the previous movies.
He does. He does.
I mean, I think there's plenty to like about the movie, even with all the shortcomings that you have with the rest of the characters and the plot holes or just kind of some missing links here and there.
The missing links. Yep. Let me find my link and say that similar, I guess, to what you guys are saying. My favorite part of the film was not necessarily the fights or the battles or the CGI, but was Godzilla finally on screen effing S up the way I wanted him to when I first heard there was going to be an American Godzilla film. So when the movie opens in Pensacola, Florida, essentially, and Godzilla starts attacking, that entire scene, I was riveted. I was like, Godzilla's swatting jets out of the air. Yeah. Yes! This is what I've been wanting. And like, I loved him in King of the Monsters, but he was still being that, I'm the good guy, the good alpha titan in King of the Monsters. And in this film, I felt like we got to see the American version of what I would consider to be like the Godzilla 1985 reimagined as a new monster, and that absolutely hands down is my favorite part of the movie. I love seeing Godzilla be a total badass. In addition to swatting jets out of the air, when he shows up in Hong Kong, the first thing he does is take out a freaking bridge with his fins. Godzilla is a total badass in this movie, and
I love
my number one thing that I love about it.
Yeah, cutting the battleships in half with his back.
I know, right?
Amazing.
Yeah,
the
so
tail,
good.
The tail that
Yeah, and that little homage to Jaws with the anchor on the half of destroyer
that was awesome.
Being pulled is I thoroughly enjoyed that. That's an homage I really liked. That's something I really enjoyed.
Actually,
because then Kong is tracking his movement, and it's like it made a little more tension in that scene.
None of us have
I'm
really
sure
discussed.
Brian would have a lot to say about that.
None of us have really discussed, and I don't know if it fits into the format, but like all the different homages there were in this to the previous King Kong versus Godzilla to a surprising degree.
Well,
Yeah.
even the heave vehicle resuscitating Kong. I mean,
there's your light. There's your electricity power,
Yeah.
right, Dave?
and
Absolutely.
Godzilla. Anybody else notice it?
Oh yeah.
So,
Yes.
oh man,
Yes.
I meant to have something for that actually. There is like, as Sane is saying, there's a moment where this tiny monster comes out, and it's like, if you look at a screenshot of it, this is when they're in the Hollow Earth. If you look at a screenshot of it, it really, really looks like if someone was to say, what would Godzilla look like without any evolution? Like
Infant Godzilla, yeah.
It's straight up baby Godzilla.
It's like this baby Godzilla. However, I feel like I saw somebody online refute it as being like,
but-
it's been named by something and it's not Minya, damn it.
It's a baby Godzilla.
Totally
I
worth
think
checking
it's-
out, though.
It's too intentional not to have been an Easter egg for that sort of idea.
Right?
I mean, if
Yeah.
Kaiju Cast is going to be an Easter egg in the movie, you gotta. It's got to be there, right? It's got to be that. That's got to be Minya.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking for that image right now. See if I can find it and share it on screen. Man, there it is.
I wish the Warbat scene hadn't been so short.
The Warbats were really cool
That
looking.
was neat. It was just too short a scene almost. I
Cooler
like
All
than
right,
I was
so
expecting
if
to be.
anybody's interested in what we're talking about, this is the baby Godzilla, and really you can see the shape of Godzilla's mouth in there. It's way wider, like
Fins?
well, it's like
a
the
lizard.
scoops on the shoulders are exactly the same.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Ern says it definitely ain't Baragon.
Nope.
No, I totally agree with you. In fact, when I read somebody refuting it, it's been named by the filmmakers as whatever, I was like, no, that's not right.
And now
they
I'm
just
sad
call
that it
like
wasn't
Hollow
Baragon.
Lizard. Yeah.
You never know. Baragon could come later in the MonsterVerse, should they choose to continue
Hey.
it.
Anguillus is in it technically.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on to our next point, which is what we didn't care for in the film. And that will kick things off with Martin Vavra. I know that you've probably got a lot to choose from, and we don't need to harp on it too much, right? I think overall all of us love the film in some way, so don't feel like you have to go off the deep end on this movie or anything.
No, I'm not going to, because I think we've already kind of touched on a lot of the things that we didn't like in these conversations, and it is what it is. Now I want to say that there was a lot of actors in here that I really, really like, that I think are really good actors, that their characters could have been played by anybody. So that's kind of a bummer to me. I really like these actors. I would have liked to have seen.
Ern agrees. He thinks the worst part are people.
Yes, people suck. I like Skarsgård. I think he's really great. Man, this guy's got like a track record of just playing really crazy, screwed up characters, and seeing him as like this, the professor in the basement that's kind of slightly misunderstood was a little disappointing.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah,
is that all you want to go into? All right.
Yeah, that's it. I don't need to tear this movie apart. I did have a good time. I was just completely enthralled watching this thing on a big screen. I was eating popcorn and drinking soda and just loving it. So it's like,
I'm a little jealous you saw it on a movie movie screen. I'm maybe we can get lucky and they'll do a re-release of this once it's less dangerous to go alone. But yeah, cool. That's awesome, dude. And hey, people do sometimes suck. Jeff, what was your least favorite part about Godzilla vs. Kong?
The whole Millie Bobby Brown and the podcaster and her ridiculous friend on some kind of bad Scooby-Doo Disney Channel adventure. I was just like, every time they got on the screen, I'm like, ugh, it was just awful. But I was just like, oh my God, this is like a bad Disney Channel show. I'm like, what the hell? Why can they just equally just walk into Apex and all these places? There's no, what the hell is going on? But that's just, that's it. I just thought it was, every time they came on the screen, I was just like, oh God, please let this scene get over with quick.
Yeah, I liked Millie Bobby Brown's character so much more in the last film, and I feel like I didn't hate her in this movie at all, but at the same time, I feel like they tweaked her character a bit too much to make her into something that she wasn't necessarily in the last film. She was a bit more obsessive than I think the last film portrayed her as. But is that all you had to say as far as like things you didn't like, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean that's basically it. It's like everybody else said. You're not going to harp on the human characters that much because that's not really the point of this movie.
All right. So, Sane, how about you, man? What do you have to say about your least favorite parts, your least favorite takeaways from Godzilla vs. Kong? Oh, you're still muted.
Oh, you're muted.
There we go. Sorry.
Okay, yes, no worries.
The movie is the Jane Goodall, Dr. Irene character. She is so unlikable. And it could be a lot of it was left on the cutting room floor to make her any bit human, but she came across just as a blunt, like uncompromising character so much, and it didn't really instill any sort of like empathy towards her. Now I liked Gia quite a bit, and I liked if I know he's tropey, but I actually like Alexander Skarsgård, and I will actually champion the Brian Tyree Henry character a little bit, only so much as he's obviously a good comedic actor and he has good timing. I wish they hadn't written the character as such a raving lunatic. If they had pulled it back just a little bit, and he could have been just like, "Hey, I have a podcast about these real kaijus." Like, if it wasn't the like, barely a notch away from a flat earther sort of idea, like I think I would have enjoyed the character more because it's like clearly the actor's a good actor. Yeah, and Millie Bobby Brown and Kyle Chandler just utterly wasted. Like, unfortunately, like and not seeing Charles Dance in the movie either. Like, I was
just talking about that with Lady Kyle because she was wondering how where the Ghidra brain came from, and so I was explaining the ending, the stinger ending to her, which had Charles Dance in it. I'm like, why wasn't he there?
The Echo Terrorists, the jump between them and Apex, we didn't have resolution either with what happened with the Echo Terrorists because they just sold Ghidra's head. That doesn't seem likely for what they were creating.
It's a real good point.
And
nothing matters the film.
Yeah. We didn't get an Apex going backwards. We didn't hear about anything other than like a little tiny blurb in the end credits of King of Monsters saying like or Monarchs. And where the fuck was Monarch? Oops, sorry. Where was Monarch? Where did they disappear to?
So that's an interesting question because Monarch is in the film, but I have a feeling that Monarch, they spent so much time with Monarch in King of the Monsters that people were like, no, we don't need to focus on that group anymore. We need to like move along. They're not important. And so Kyle Chandler is definitely working for Monarch. Yeah. And the Hollow, I guess I'd say the Antarctic base is an old Monarch base. Clearly. And if you look at what the people are wearing, they've got like, when they go to Hollow Earth, they're wearing these jumpsuits and they've got Monarch logos on the shoulder bells for some reason.
All the technology?
Apex gave them the tech. I don't know.
Well, again, unfortunately,
not explained at all.
And the villain, boy, if they had like gave him just a little tiny bit more to do, like other than like wringing his hands, like we'll be number one on Earth again after Mechagodzilla kills all the other Titans. But those are my complaints, unfortunately. Other than the, like I said before, with like being a little bit dismayed by the fact that Godzilla was just like the floor was mopped by him
for the Mechagodzilla fight,
because he didn't even get a lick in. It's not like he got a little bit of anything. Like I think he body checks Mechagodzilla for like 1 second when he first blasts his way out of the hill, and then he's just at a disadvantage the whole time after that.
Totally,
I understand that was the point. He's supposed to be so overpowering. So, and Godzilla's already spent from battling Kong and everything. That's like,
But you want your hero to get some good licks in.
At least a one or two, which we
Yeah.
didn't get, unfortunately. But
Totally agree.
yep.
All right, so where were we, Dave?
I'm not going to disagree with anything that's already been said. If anybody is listening with their children, I am going to very intentionally drop one F-bomb in a minute. So my problem isn't so much, I'm not sure where my problem is. I know that Adam was mentioned earlier that the action sequences are so beautiful, and they are, and and so enjoyable and so entertaining that you could coast through the scenes with just the people. And I was not able to do that. Like to what Jeff was saying about the Scooby Gang, there's that scene where Millie Bobby Brown, I don't even remember her character's name, gets into Josh's van, and she's like I'm driving, and Josh is there, and he's like, why are we doing this? And she turns to him and says, if we're not going to help him, who will? And I'm like, fuck you. How can, like, that is just the most awful cliche. This screenplay is garbage. Show me more monsters. It's like, I like Millie Bobby Brown. I know that's not her fault. This is the fault of the writers.
So see, Dave, the true monsters are the writers.
There's that, and then there's the scene with Maya Simmons. She's like, feel free to be impressed. I'm like, oh my god, I hate you so much. You are only cast for your boobs. Get out of here. I hate this character. It's like it's
whatever Daddy wants, he gets. Right?
Oh my god, that made me so angry.
Really annoying.
The writing was so lazy. The writing of the people was so lazy that it made me insane. And then the monsters fought again, and I was happy.
Dave, you're cracking people up.
Yeah, tell me I'm wrong.
Dude, no, I agree with that. I agree with that.
It's like, but it's like I literally had both times when I watched the movie, I had like this visceral reaction to those bad lines. And it's like we were talking about like how magnificent the CGI is. So much love and care went into every frame of CGI. Every crack and crevice in Godzilla's skin was just lovingly lit and crafted, and oh my god, it was so good. And then to have just cliched tropes that could have been pulled from the Devlin Emmerich movie.
Can I tell you which one is the worst for me? Was when supervillain Simon Simmons is just about to be killed by like the swipe of Mechagodzilla's hand, and he says OS. Like, we have seen that exact. I mean, going back for 25, 30 years of somebody just about to get killed, and they say OS, and it's like. There was not a single writer that could have come up with shocked awe. Just nothing. He didn't say anything.
Lazy.
That's
Lazy.
why I am serious. I really wish that Hollywood had heard my pleas on the original episodes of the Kaiju Cast. I would have come down there to fix your scripts. I would.
Script doctor,
all would have.
My consulting fees are reasonable, very reasonable.
I would have done it for free.
So let's see who's next on our hate list. That's got to be Adam, right?
Or Adam, yeah.
Obviously, all the scenes with people were the weak parts of the film. I think there's no disagreement there. But in terms of the thing that I personally enjoyed the least, I'd echo Jeff, specifically the comic relief. Like, yeah, Millie Bobby Brown's character is pretty superfluous in this movie, and a lot of it doesn't make sense. There's, it's not the best dialogue, etc. But at least her character wasn't there to try to be funny. The two characters with her, the podcaster and her friend with the van, are just some of the most unwatchable parts of the movie. and contribute only negative things. So, and worst aren't funny in any way whatsoever. So that was the worst part for me.
All right. And Mr. Charles.
As Dave said, I can't really disagree with anything that's been said thus far. And I also, when you have a movie like this, I always wonder what the thought process is, why they feel the need to have so many characters. So many of the problems I think could be fixed by just minimizing that cast. Even with the epic nature of what's going on, you don't have to follow this A team and this B team of cast members. And, there's a couple C members over there they eventually see again. It seems it dilutes what you can do with those characters. So
I agree.
Because the limited amount of screen time and because there are so many characters, I mean, you're only going to get so much out of them. And with that limited time, the only way you can get anything out of them is to have an epic writer behind it to give you just every line has a meaning. So, my future, my note to the future writers is maybe cut back. I keep wondering. I know if somebody said this before. I'm sure somebody's recommended this before. What would be wrong with maybe doing one of these, MonsterVerse movies almost as a silent movie? I mean, where there are no humans. I'm sure somebody's made that suggestion. IDW has done at least a couple of comics that were in that vein that were fantastic. So, it can work, I think. Probably wouldn't fly with a big tentpole, big budget movie that's coming out in the summer. They got to have the actors to draw people in, I'm sure, as their justification. But isn't Kong and Godzilla enough actor to bring you in? So I don't know.
Well, and again, you go back to look at a classic movie like Them or something. I think of one or two other old House of. There's maybe 4 actors that are important pivotal characters to the entire movie,
right?
And I just this constant diluting of the waters over and over and over again with just so many actors, so many characters. I'd rather stick with maybe 4 key characters that we follow almost entirely through the whole thing than half a dozen characters. And I'm sure this is the influence of the Marvel movies, even though I like the Marvel movies. They built up that roster of having 20 pivotal characters over 12 films.
And I think it goes back further than that. I mean, if you go to the disaster movies of the 70s, that really set this up to have the huge cast of characters. But big difference in those movies is you don't have characters that are the disaster. Kong and Godzilla are characters of themselves. In those disaster movies, you can have a huge cast because the disaster is the upside down ship. I mean, it's you don't that doesn't need to take as much place. The action is with the people, so having a big cast is not a big deal. But then they start to do that later. When Emmerich and Dean Devlin start to do their homages or direct ripoffs of those disaster movies. I think that's carried through to blockbusters today. I mean, I think you have these casts in these kind of movies because of that. And I cutting back, less is more. The old saying. So
I can't remember if I said this earlier, but I think I did. The number of characters in this film was cut back a little bit from the previous film, right? But I completely agree with you. And I wanted to just say real quickly, there is a comment up here. Connor says he wonders if Adam Wingard intentionally was going for weaker humans as sort of like an homage to the Showa films. I think that I agree with what Charlie's saying. Instead of making weaker humans, which I can get into that in a second too, but instead of making weaker humans, just do less humans. There's no Godzilla movie from Japan that has 10 main characters in it, Yeah. So looking back at those old films, they don't need to build up these characters into having these really big, huge character arcs or big, huge backstories. My favorite film, as everybody who knows the Kaiju Cast knows, is Monster Zero, right? So Monster Zero has 5 characters, 6 characters if you count the science, the guy in the science center. But you've got Akira Takarada as Fuji, Nick Adams is Glenn. Glenn, and then you've got Glenn's Namikawa. Mm-hmm. Then you've got Tetsui, and his girlfriend, and then the controller of Planet X. And really, that's it. Yeah. That's really it. 6 characters. Yeah, you make a movie with 6 characters. But correct me if I'm wrong, Martin. Don't they do this large cast to bring more people into the seats? Like, that's what I kind of assume. They're like, well, Sarsgaard might be enough to get the ladies in, but we need that chick to come in and be Simmons' daughter to get the guys in.
If it wasn't that simple.
Yeah, and also Millie Bobby Brown probably signed a contract that says I get this many films, and so they've already paid for that. So they're just, all right, what are we going to do with her? And Skarsgård is on a really good run right now. He just did the remake of The Stand. He's got a couple of other things that are in the works that are all big projects as well. So he's bankable. He's bankable enough to be able to we have him in a few scenes, we get him run around, we do some things. He's not going to cost us that much because we're going to stick him on a set and in the cockpit and a couple of other things, and then he sells the film.
Mm-hmm. So I didn't say what I liked the least about this film, and sure, I could definitely go into the characters and all that stuff too. But really, I think that what I take away from this entire film is that I really don't like the soundtrack. It seems much more phoned in than either of the previous 2 Godzilla films. So I didn't really like Alexander Desplat's score for the 2014 film, but in hindsight, I love hearing notes of his score, his Godzilla theme, being used like in the trailer for the Godzilla vs. Kong movie. That's good stuff, And of course, when I listened to the soundtrack for this movie, which I paid for with my own good money, I am just wishing it was the Bear McCreary soundtrack from Godzilla King of the Monsters, which I still actively listen to, just like all the rest of the soundtracks. So that would be my biggest takeaway. But yeah, character development in this film needed a big hand as far as I'm concerned. So we talked about what we liked. We talked about what we didn't like. And we got a whole bunch of people still watching, 30 people still hanging out with us. Let's throw a couple comments up on the screen. Connor says we absolutely need to read/listen to the book because it fills in gaps and explains several of the missing story lore bits. I tell you what, I've been hesitant to listen to the book. I can read, but I just don't have the time to read. So listening to a book works for me best. I've said that on the podcast before, even though I don't need to prove that I can read to anybody. But I definitely will seek that out. The only reason I've been pausing that is because it's like only available through Audible. So that means I have to sign up through Audible and then cancel my automatic subscription or what have you. So I don't like that stuff. I want to just be able to go out and buy it, and I have to sign up for Audible. So thumbs down Audible on that. What else we got? Everything about Millie Bobby Brown's character obsession with conspiracy theory just felt way too close to QAnon and Flat Earth. I'd say, I think at first I was kind of like, oh, cool, he's a conspiracy theorist. And then he started throwing out a couple of the out there conspiracy theorists. And I'm like, oh, gross. Let's see. Sane, Greg agreed with what you were saying. He wanted Godzilla to make a comeback. What else we got here?
Agreed.
We were talking about writers in this movie, and GFan 2299 said, there are writers? Of course there are.
There's probably too many is the problem, generally.
No, I think that's definitely one of the problems. I mean, I have made throughout the past, I've made no bones about the fact that I don't really think that Max Borenstein is a great writer of this stuff. I think that he's serviceable, but I think it's like, if I was grading him, I'd give his work a C in terms of screenwriting. Like, and because
he
he's
one
been
of the screenplay writers?
yeah, in all of these freaking films. So he's had his dirty little grubby hands in every single script.
Yeah, I kind of wish Mike Doherty had been more in charge of some of the story elements of this, because it's clear that
I would love to reach out to him again and be like, hey, dude, how much did you actually have to do with this? And like, where did it fall out of your hands? And actively, I have another big question about this film, because when the pandemic hit and everything shut down, we were originally, I think we were supposed to be a couple of months away from the release of this film.
Yeah.
So Godzilla vs. Kong has, for all intents and purposes, been sitting in a finished format for a year before we get to see it, and probably even longer than that. So I'm wondering, did anybody working on the film, or could anybody working on the film at the time, take that pandemic time and be like, you know what, I'm just going to tighten this up like crazy and legendary. You don't even need to worry about paying me extra more. Don't put that money from the budget into that. I'm going to just do it on my own because I'm stuck here at home. Because I thought the movie looked really good. I mean, better than the other movies did, and with less budget, right?
I remember hearing, because the movie was originally supposed to be released like in, what was it, March of 2020. And then they moved it to November because of the pandemic.
Right, yeah. Do you have all the dates? Because I don't have all that stuff down. Well, I just remember being like annoyed by it.
Originally supposed to come out in...
Oh.
Yes.
Monsters got kind of a...
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me now? How about that? Is that good?
Yeah.
Are we still getting that weird thing?
Can you hear it?
No.
We're good.
See, I thought the
You're
first,
all good.
It was supposed to be May initially.
Yeah, it was
the first kickoff movie.
May.
Here you go.
After
Connor's
King of
saving
the
us.
Monsters, After King of the Monsters didn't perform as well, I thought they said, okay, let's push it back a little bit and work on this a little bit more. I don't know what they worked on really, but you know, as to what you said, they had even more time after that to tinker with it. But I just don't know if they'll on to other projects and just like, let's just leave this the way it is. Maybe it tested well. Maybe it tested well within, you know, Warner's. Who knows?
Yeah, I remember hearing a train going by. No, I remember hearing. Well, how would I say this? I remember, because I do this thing. You guys know about this, where when a movie's coming out, I don't want to know anything about it. I don't want anything to get spoiled. God damn it, Warbat and Mechagodzilla. But for me, I try to avoid everything, right? So if I see something, I just quickly scroll past it, kind of thing. So I didn't pay attention to any of those release dates. I just remember telling myself that I'll watch the trailer when it comes out. I'll watch the movie when it comes out. I'm not really concerned about their bouncing it around. But I really, really did not like how it felt. It felt disrespectful to the King of the Monsters to be like, "Now we're going to put your movie here. Now we're going to put your movie here. Now we're going to put your movie here." It just made me kind of angry. Like, you know.
But it was such an unprecedented time. Nobody could have guessed.
True.
This was going to occur. So.
But I think even before the pandemic, it was still getting bounced around, and that made that bummed me out. But what I think the point I was going to say is that back before the pandemic, people had seen a somewhat finished version of this movie, and I remember seeing positive responses. And of course, I think that happens a lot. You know, a lot of people like try and build up hype that way to say, look, we had a special screening for these people and they loved it, you know. But I don't know how accurate any of that stuff is these days and pandemic days. Yeah, this is Mike saying he heard that people who watched early preview screenings apparently saw after credit and mid credit scenes. What Adam Wingard, the director, says is that originally the movie was supposed to end when the credits were supposed to roll when Godzilla goes into the ocean.
Yeah.
And then after the credits roll, that's when you see Kong in Hollow Earth with everybody hanging out with him. So, I actually, okay. So I said this earlier. I'm not excited for more MonsterVerse. I am of the mind that Legendary has had its fun with the Godzilla license, and it's time for them to hand it back to Toho, so Toho can mess it up on their own. But honestly, I just want Toho to get back into trying to make quality monster movies, not pumping out Godzilla movies one year after another for no real reason.
Well, some of this might come down to Singular Point too, which is apparently doing well. So,
yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that too.
Yeah. So
when does that come out?
It'll be
Singular
June.
Point's June.
It's currently playing in Japan already, but you want if you want, but apparently the direction they've taken it has really injected some life into the series in Japan. So who knows? But I think what they did with Shin in so much as like, well, let's just take a radically new direction for Godzilla with every incarnation, which has obviously been happening since the Millennium series. But it might be, I think, problematic with Toho moving forward because they're just going to try and find a new crazy way to depict Godzilla every single time. Sometimes you can just have it be Godzilla.
Yeah, I think that honestly, if Toho is going to do something, they need to have somebody not in charge of the Godzilla stuff there, but they need to have somebody that can be reserved, that can actually say, let's find somebody who really knows what they want to do, and put some actual faith in that person.
Well, has a vision. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, that's exactly what I want. I want Toho. I want somebody to have a vision for Toho to say, "We believe in you enough to finance your vision," and not get too involved. But I doubt it's going to happen
for Shin. And I mean, it worked.
Yes,
but but at the same point, they also gave it to the anime people that did the, first anime series, which was utter garbage. So, they need an overseer.
Yeah, I just there's also the weird aspect where we're Americans looking at the franchise from a different continent entirely. But honestly, I think what they've been doing, I think I said this on the podcast. I know I've said this in the past few years, but I appreciate what Toho has been doing in Japan for Godzilla. I loved Shin Godzilla. I did not enjoy the animated trilogy, but after it happened, I absolutely can, on some level, appreciate what they did to deconstruct the Godzilla mythos and turn it into a high sci-fi adventure, not adventure, but a story. And I don't love it, but it is what it is. And I applaud Toho for pushing their boundaries, not just making live action films of Godzilla, and the fact that they've got this new anime series coming out, and the fact that when it was being advertised, a bunch of people I knew were like, what is this craziness? This is Godzilla Singular Point that we're talking about right now. And then a bunch of us, including myself, I picked up the Godzilla action figure from that series, and it looks super goofy. So this made me go, I don't know, maybe the Singular Point thing isn't going to be that great, but reviews have been very favorable coming in from Japan, at least. So that gives me hope that we're going to see some more good stuff coming out of Japan in the next.
But I would say, like with Shin, there was an absolute desire to take Godzilla in a less stagnant direction and do something really, really interesting.
Yes,
Ariadi
absolutely.
Ano was the person to do it. I see with the Godzilla anime though, I think they were pushing out product. I don't think there was any desire to create a new, different, higher sci-fi minded. I think they were creating product.
Agree to disagree then.
Anime is important. Nerds love anime. knock out an anime for us. And
this new one though, this show seems to be the question of like, if you're going to do an animated Godzilla property, you're going to try and do things. If you're going to do an animated Godzilla property, do things that you can't do in live action.
Agreed.
Right? That's what I feel like I'm seeing, and I'm looking forward to. But yeah, if Singular Point does well, I just don't know. We don't know what Toho's going to do, and we don't even really know what the details are in terms of license. And I even heard that rumor going around that Toho got in trouble for making Shin Godzilla because they didn't have the rights to do a Godzilla movie after the 2014 film. I heard that was BS necessarily.
Yeah,
I mean, at this point, I don't know enough about that industry specifically, the live industry of Japanese licensing, to really say one way or the other. Anyway, I said soundtrack was the most disappointing thing for me, by the way, and I think I'm gonna revise that. Sorry. Somebody said something in the chat that made me remember that when I stopped watching the movie after the first viewing, I remember saying, what happened to all that cool stuff that they were doing in Godzilla King of the Monsters? And they just completely abandoned it. So I think maybe my least favorite part about Godzilla vs. Kong is that they completely abandoned most of the world building that happened, the world building that I liked from King of the Monsters, and they went in this Hollow Earth direction. I got a quick question for all of my panelists and anybody who is watching live with us. Hollow Earth. Did this live up to your expectations? Because I have zero experience reading any Hollow Earth fiction, seeing any Hollow Earth movies, with some exceptions. You know, there's some exceptions. Obviously, like Journey to the Center of the Earth is a Hollow Earth kind of situation. So some of those things, like the less serious 60s movies I've seen. But does anybody have any experience reading that stuff? And how did you feel about the portrayal of the Hollow Earth in Godzilla vs. Kong?
Every bit as good as At the Earth's Core. That was kind of a joke.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dave might get it. It's silly. It's silly. The whole Hollow Earth thing is, not a favorite element, but it was fine. But Hollow Earth stories go back 100 years with Journey to the Center of the Earth. Is there even anything before that? Before Jules Verne? I'm not sure, but 100. What am I saying? 130 years. It's kind of goofy because what can you do with it? I mean, the second you start to propose Hollow Earth, I mean, you're in total fantasy land, and so what are the expectations? It was fine.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
I can buy Hollow Earth. I just can't buy Godzilla blasting his nuclear threat from Tokyo to the
Hong Kong.
Who's going to fill in that hole? I mean, what the hell is going on here?
I think what I objected to was I didn't need the ending scene from 2001 weird warp drive part of it.
Oh yeah, I was like, that's your black hole moment.
Yeah, and which didn't seem to that was totally abandoned on the way out when they were going back through the whole Godzilla blast.
Yeah.
But it's not like the
I
Earth
assumed
is
it
the
was
size of,
implied.
like Jupiter. Yeah. Well, if it's implied, you show, you don't tell. I mean, that's film. And if I don't know.
Actually, what I found more confusing along those lines is they have the station in Antarctica. They're like, that way is the Hollow Earth. We've got it all dug out. We've got the hole. We know it's right there. I guess we're just waiting for King Kong to take us through it, because otherwise there's just no way to know. There's just no way.
It was their
that
polarity issues. That was, they had talked about their systems had gotten crushed prior to that none of their pilots were surviving it. So
it was coincidental that they were like, okay, now we have ships that can do this, and we're going to wait to use them until we actually have Kong going with us.
All right, nothing matters.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If you're going to give me Hollow Earth, and you're going to spend all this time going to Hollow Earth, when you want to send someone from Florida to Hong Kong and you're not going straight through a hollow earth, what was the point? What was any of this stuff? Oh yeah, we've created this completely hover track system that shoots all the way through the earth, but we never figured out hollow earth. But where's this track going?
I agree.
What is this? Like it's like, oh, we had 2 kindergartners write 2 separate stories and then we shot the 2 of them together.
Wow. Kindergartners, that's even worse than my 12-year-old comments when I watched it for the first time. There's a little chatter in the live chat about some comics, but I did want to mention, in addition to the novelization, which is apparently supposed to fill in some holes, there are 1 or 2 comics that are coming out, and I'm not sure if they have an actual connection to this film. But of course, I'm going to buy them and check them out.
No, wait,
unless Legendary Comics just wants to send them to me.
Well, I think it was Kingdom Kong and Godzilla Dominion fill in the gaps between the movies. From my understanding.
Prequels. And I haven't had a chance to read the Kingdom Kong yet. But, you know, I'm always bothered by the idea that you need these ancillary things. You know, anybody that thinks you need the novel or the comic book to fill in the blanks that should have been there in the movie.
But isn't that like every Star Trek tactical manual?
Well, no, that's world building. That's just expanding on the universe. That's not filling in plot holes.
Yeah.
All right, hang on. I got that right there. This is what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
We're talking, and it says this is official prequels to the Godzilla vs. Kong movie. So I think I agree with Charlie. Like, I don't think you should have to dive into these things, but at the same time, maybe not the reference that Sane gave, but I will definitely say that when Star Wars movies were coming out, like the prequel movies were coming out, there were so many supplemental materials that could be tacked onto either end of those films. So I would say it's something that cinematic pop culture audiences are kind of used to these days.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think it should be required reading, of course.
I think that's my.
But I always like diving deeper into those universes when I can.
Art Adams sure phoned in those covers.
Yep.
Didn't try
at all.
this
Kong cover is terrible.
Yeah.
It's
awful.
That is weird.
I reluctantly bought it, but hopefully it's fun.
Let me know how it is, man. Okay, did we all get all that negativity off of our chest now? Is it? I think it's time for us to go into our final thoughts. So, Martin, final thoughts on Godzilla vs. Kong. Where does this movie sit for you in the pantheon of kaiju cinema?
Like as far as the whole world of it, I couldn't even begin to slide it into a position. But like I said, I enjoyed it. Going back to a movie theater and watching this film was probably one of the biggest joys I've had in probably the last couple of years. Honestly, it was great to be able to just see this on a big screen and eat popcorn. I enjoyed myself, and I do hope there's a continuation, and whether it's with Toho or whether Legendary gets it. I would really love to see someone have a vision and create something, either a standalone or if it's going to be a continuation of these, that they plot it out. They have a vision and that vision comes through. I would love to see that.
All right, right on. Jeff El Jefe, take it away. Final thoughts.
Final thoughts is, I lump this movie, of course, with all the other Legendary movies. These 4 are like a certain thing. And with all of these movies, I don't really think there'll be very few times I actually sit down and watch this movie from beginning to end again. It's like I will pick scenes, probably the monster scenes, and either skip a lot of the nonsensical human stuff. And And that's also probably because, these legendary movies just don't have the charm that, the older films do. And that's just for me. I mean, that's just me personally. But yeah, I mean, it's fine. I didn't hate it by any means, but it is what it is, and it's the monster stuff was entertaining.
All right, I guess that means returning to sane.
I liked it well enough. I'm going to say this right now. It's like I refuse to be one of these gatekeepery sort of people that like this is not meant for like only Toho should be making these movies because like Toho made SE bad Godzilla movies too. I mean, Final Wars is like objectively bad movie. So what the MonsterVerse has been doing, I'm perfectly happy with. I will hope they continue on with it. I think that there's room for there to be both these universes. I've said it before. I would actually be interested as if Toho took over the MonsterVerse, or maybe there was some shared continuity. Maybe if they took the the Americanized Godzilla design and used it, or something. I don't. There's room in my heart for all of these things, and for its slight cinematic failings, whether it's there's some bad plot holes or acting. It's like all these arguments can be leveled exactly against any Toho film. So I'm not going to pretend that these are just not good enough for me. I enjoyed it enormously. I think it's great, and I hope they make more. Probably 2014 is really the only lacking movie, and that's only by contrast of we've gotten better movies since. So I walked out of the 2014 movie still enjoying it. I enjoyed walking out of every one of these thus far. So yeah, I will watch this again and again. I'll watch King of the Monsters again and again. I'll watch Skull Island again and again. They're all good films, and I don't need them to be, something that Orson Welles created. I don't need them to be these incredibly amazing cinematic works because that's not what I'm going in to watch. So yeah, I think it's great. It's a fun enough movie for what it is.
Right on. All right, well, Dave, I would like to hear your final thoughts on Godzilla vs. Kong. And, hey, why not throw in a little, you want that, talk about that MonsterVerse too, if you want to, in your conclusion.
Yeah, I would be disappointed if Legendary dropped the MonsterVerse after this. Truth be told, I watched the credits the first time all the way through to the end because I was just hoping that it was going to, like, the last credit was going to roll, it was going to be black, and then we were going to hear Gamera's roar. I was just like, this would, if that would be it. That would be it. Obviously did not happen. It's a bit of a pipe dream, but I want to see the legendary Rodan again. I mean, I want to, I want to see, a movie that features there was I want to see more of them. I want to see what Quetzalcoatl looks like, and I want to see what some of the other ones.
Right. Yeah.
Look like. I think that they're honestly, even if Godzilla is not in the movie.
Yeah.
Well, hang on.
Maybe.
If Godzilla's not in the movie, then I would retract that statement. If you're talking about taking the
that's as much of a long shot as the Gamera roar thing. But honestly, as soon as we get off here, I'm probably going to watch that sequence of Godzilla making landfall in Pensacola again. It's just fun. It's just a fun movie. For all of its flaws, it's just a damn fun movie.
Damn fun movie.
Can't say that about Wonder Woman 84. Can't.
No, you can't. Well, Adam Alexander stepped back into his chair at the perfect time to tell us his final thoughts on Godzilla vs. Kong.
I had the same joy and wonder watching it that my 5-year-old self did watching the original. clash between the two characters. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I have no qualms. It met my expectations, and to everyone that had higher expectations about the story, have you been watching Godzilla movies for the last 50? I don't understand what movies you've been watching that I've been missing, but this movie was not only on par but like above par with like the entire Godzilla franchise and King Kong franchise. Frankly, apart from standalone or stand apart original films. I hope the MonsterVerse continues in some fashion or another, because I think it would be a shame to lose this quality of CGI and this universe that they've been building, however sloppily they've been doing it. I look forward to more.
All right. And Charles.
Everybody's already summed it up. I mean, this movie is exactly that. It's a lot of fun. I'm absolutely going to watch it again. It'll be in the rotation of kaiju movies that I put in regularly. And the MonsterVerse as a whole, I would love to see it continue. And since they've already kind of gone, crazy, fantasy with some of this sci-fi beyond what Godzilla already is, I think it would be really great if they start to introduce more of the space elements from the Toho movies.
Yes,
I'd be lying if I didn't think that it would have been cool if Walter Simmons actually turned out to be an alien.
Right. There you go. This is what I'm saying.
Oh, that would have been so much better.
So that's what I would look forward to in another MonsterVerse movie. I hope to see what else they can do with it. And as Sane pointed out, I mean, Toho's going to do their thing, and let's have both of them side by side and more monsters. That's great. That's what it's all about. So the fact that in 2021 we've got multiples of these things coming out is I could have only dreamed of it when I was 13. So it's great stuff.
Did anybody have the thought with the Mechagodzilla business that they could have turned one of the Mutos into Gigan using
maybe it's coming
cyborg business from Mechagodzilla? And they already
that could be cool.
Like
that could be cool. Yeah, I don't think that I would have thought to make that connection, but I do remember when 2014's film came out. Afterwards, people were doing fan art. And that guy Dope Pope, who does all the really cool 3D sculptures, he did a MonsterVerse style insert kaiju name, and one of them was Gigan, and it was like, that looks kind of freaking cool, man. I would be behind seeing that. But overall, so just to jump into my final thoughts about this film, which I have not written down, so you're not getting a nice verbose closeout from me on this, but basically, Godzilla vs. Kong is what it is, and it did what it promised. It gave us what it promised it would. And I felt like the film is very, very blockbustery, and very much a popcorn movie. And I am now sitting here very jealous that Sane and Martin went to see it on a big screen, even though I have a 10-foot by 6-foot screen right here. And it was amazing to watch it on my own time and stuff. Like, I'd say let's bring this movie back for another viewing once it's safer, because I would love to go see this on a big, gigantic, ginormous screen. Despite its flaws, despite any of the issues that I had, or the moments in the movie that I was like, what? The film's fight sequences, the film's monster depictions were really, really incredible. And so that puts it pretty high up in terms of like an enjoyable movie, and that's what I want my Godzilla movies to be. I want my Godzilla movies to be fun. So sure, Shin Godzilla was a great film, but it wasn't very fun. And this movie was a fun film, even though it might not have been very great, but it was still pretty great. So I think overall, I would say that I mostly feel the same as my co-hosts here in terms of the film. There were things I loved about it, things I didn't love about it, but overall, it is what it is. It's Godzilla versus Kong. And I think it was kind of exactly what I wanted an American movie to be, when Godzilla, I said this earlier, when Godzilla shows up in this movie, that is what I wanted ever since they said we're making an American Godzilla movie. Back in 1998, that's what I wanted from a Godzilla movie back then. So this movie, again, delivered on that particular aspect for me, and I'm very appreciative of that. Now, having said that, I think that pretty much wraps up this entire episode. We've been going for 2.5 hours. Sounds like a perfect time for me to click the end broadcast. And let me just say, get everybody back on screen here the regular way. Dave, Jeff, Charles, Sane, Martin, Adam, thank you guys so much for joining us today and to talk about this film.
We missed you guys.
Yeah,
People have been clamoring for this to happen, and I started getting messages a couple of months ago about, like, are you guys coming back to do a Godzilla vs. Kong? So here it is. Here's the Daikaiju discussion that you guys have been wanting, hopefully waiting for. Hopefully it absolutely delivered for you guys. It was a lot of fun for me, and I definitely will come back and do some more Kaiju stuff like this live stream style in the future. Thank you guys for watching live. You guys have been awesome. I would name you all individually, but you know who you are. Anyway, I don't have any awesome music to play either to close out the song. Well, that's the problem with YouTube is I can't play any cool stuff because they'll ding me with copyright. So we're all just going to finish this by singing that together, right? Dave, lead us. 1, 2, just kidding. Anyway,
yes, you are.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for hanging out, and thank you so much for following what we've been doing. And keep it up. And we'll get some notes added to the description here for this, so you can go see some of what Martin's doing, and maybe go pick up some graphic novels or audio novelizations of the Godzilla vs. Kong book. And until we see you again, Jamata.